Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Stat Check, episode 99, digging into Pariah with Dirtsheets. As you are no doubt hearing right now, we do not have an Innis with us this weekend, but we are joined by, myself, Jeremy, Nathan, and we have a special guest today, Frank from the Stat Check Patreon, and also the creator of Dirtsheets. We'll get into exactly what Dirtsheets is, but we're really happy to have you on board, Frank, especially as we're going into our second week of Pariah stats. So how everyone's week been? Nathan?
It's fine. No. The 4th of July was last weekend. It is the tradition of all of us to, blow up parts of the United States because we love it so or hate it so, or some combination thereof of our thoughts about politics, But the 4th of July was fine. It was actually very relaxing for me. I didn't have to work for like several days in a row, which was kind of nice, the best.
Nice.
Yeah. I played my first game of Pariah Nexus against a poor person from the Vibe Check League where they were like, I was like, I don't know what this card says and I don't know what it does. And we both just kind of stopped and stared at each other across TTS. And while I tried to zoom in as far as I could to read the card, it was great. It was a beautiful moment for everybody involved where I'd realized I was very underprepared for my specific Pariah Nexus secondary moment. But otherwise, it was fine. I played into Thousand Sons with Sisters, and I managed to make just a couple fewer mistakes than my opponent, and that is how the game ended.
That's how most games go.
Yeah. Other than that, painting Sisters, getting ready for War Masters now, playing some more Pariah Nexus this week. Although my opponent disappeared from Vibe Check League because he decided to go on vacation in Spain instead.
Your opponent can be named. Liam VSL, you are now on notice that apparently you think that going on a vacation to Spain is more fun than playing a TTS game against Nathan.
Exactly. Other than that, I decided to switch out from my Crusade League into actually playing Pariah Nexus instead. So that's about it.
So you went from Pariah Nexus to Pariah Nexus?
I did. I switched forms of Pariah Nexus from Pariah Nexus to Pariah Nexus.
Capital P Pariah Nexus instead of lowercase p.
They're both just the same thing. We can say capital P, but they're the same. The real challenge is finding a deck of cards now so that I can actually play without needing to use an app. Because I don't really feel like buying a deck for $70 on eBay. That seems silly.
So what you should do is you should go to the link that you were sent to someone who had signed up for War Masters and say, yes, I am interested in buying a deck of Pariah Nexus cards for 20 euros.
I guess.
Which will include all of the mission cards, all of the deployments, 2 sets of objective cards, as well as some Battleshock cards as well.
Fine. Since you say so, I guess I can do that. That seems legit. I can't argue with that particular notion. But yeah, that's about it. That's my week. And
how about yourself, Frank?
Pretty good. Also did some traveling for the 4th, which was nice. Went to visit the in-laws, which meant my wife and I could actually relax for a bit. We could just show up, hand off our daughter, and say, "Here's your grandchild," and then go take a nap, which was fantastic.
And everyone wins.
And everybody wins. We're just like make sure she's still breathing. But it was a good time. They're very relaxing and humid because we live in the Northeast United States, so it's just humidity all the time. But yeah, that was good. Started playing some Blood Angels, and boy, moving 12 inches all the time is pretty neat. Turns out sticking Oath onto just a data sheet, pretty decent ability.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, playing around with different configurations of how many X of different types of Death Company, and yeah, building some jump intercessors. Getting all the jump packs together. That's about it.
Nice. Sounds solid. Frank, since this is your first time being on here, why don't you tell us a couple of things about yourself? And
this is my second time.
I wasn't on the last time he was in my defense.
My first time on with you, but
there we go. I'll take that. My apologies.
We got there.
As a recurring guest, would you please just give yourself a quick introduction as to what it is that you do and what is Dirtsheets?
Yes, so Dirtsheets is a way of calculating how often specific data sheets and unit sizes times a particular unit shows up in lists that go X or 1 or better at GT-sized events. So 5 rounds, 25 plus players, same as the stat check dashboard. There's a link that I think is in the description, but you can, over time, see just how good, quote unquote, something is relative to how often it's appearing in lists that are winning. So something like Death Company or Lamartie's presumably has a very high percentage of appearance in winning lists. And so when you're list building, or if you're coming onto a fact and you say, hey, I don't know what to take that's good, it's a good place to go and say, 100% of the people who take one 10-man unit of Death Company go XM1 or better at their event. Maybe I should take 10 Death Company. So just some way to some more numbers, because Warhammer more numbers and more stats.
Well, we're nothing but numbers nerds here, so yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, wonderful. For myself, I was at GT this weekend, and out of pure selfishness, I have adjusted it so that we're now looking at 24 more players, because our event was 25 that then went to 24, and I went, you know what? Having it on numbers kind of dumb. Let's go to 24. But
Jeremy, who won that GT by perchance?
Hey, I've been doing this for 2 years now. I'm going to take that little bit of you know what? I do this. I'm just going to make it happen. And I've also set it up so that our system will be grabbing 24 plus going forward for that exact reason. I was talking with a few people in the back end about this, and they even said, Innes, you don't get a vote. They were just like, it doesn't seem unreasonable given that 25 is always an odd number, because 24 or 25 is the exact same, except 25 just has a bye every round.
I think we picked 25 just kind of arbitrarily anyways, because the technical GT cutoff is like 32 or something like that, I think, originally.
So back when the ITC actually cared about the threshold between RTT, GT major, and super major, because that doesn't matter anymore in the formula. Now the formula is strictly number of rounds and number of players. But back when that cutoff mattered, it was 28. And the reason it was 28 was the idea of a perfect GT was 32 players and then accommodate for some drops.
I remember this original conversation when we picked the number, because we were looking at historically what GTs actually had with 5 people in them, and we were like, well, 20 is too low, 28 is too high, and so we basically just kind of squeezed a little bit of the difference out and went with 25.
Yeah, and it sounded like a nice number, because then we could say a GT is 25, a major is 50, and a super major is 100 with 6 or more rounds. But then I was like, okay, so it's even numbers. I was like, you know what?
24 is fine. It does the same net benefit as 25 anyways for the number of rounds to players to undefeateds.
Yeah, the relationship there is basically unchanged, and I'm not going to justify myself any more than saying, if you don't like it, you can go to another stats website. In all seriousness, and I will try to endeavor to grab stuff from previously as well. I just don't know how far back in it I can go.
I think Pariah is a good place to reset it anyways.
That's basically it. And there were as far as I know, there were no 24-person events last week.
Stop the count in Elo Gate.
God damn it, Innes. Innes decides to not go on the show just so you can protest me adding that in. If you want to stop my reign, then play at War Masters and beat me.
Ooh. Fair enough. I mean, we have that bet anyways for War Masters, Jeremy. We got to see who will win that.
That will be a very fun bet. To answer Seth's question, Innes is taking the night off as well as Anthony. They just need some rest. We basically said this is episode 99. We're going to do some really cool stuff with Dirtsheets, and then next week is when we want to have all of the main hosts done, because we're going to be going through an extravaganza for episode 100.
An episode 100 extravaganza. It'll probably be called Stat Stravaganza or something like that, although it'll have very few to no stats in it, I think. But we'll find out.
It'll have pod stats is what it'll have.
There you go. It'll have some faction stats, I'm sure, where we count and then say. But speaking of stats, should I talk about this week's stats?
Yes, let's.
So this week was really tiny from a sample size perspective, which kind of feeds into last week's caveat where we were talking about how the sample sizes are kind of small. We don't have a lot of data. Please don't take everything that I say and think that it's the concrete truth of the universe. And instead, understand that this is tracking a trend. so that we can see where there might be problems. And then in a couple weeks, we'll kind of know for certain, hopefully, as we get some more majors and kind of super major level events with more player count involved, where things kind of actually lie. Like next week is Tacoma. So we'll kind of see once we get a bunch of players in how things kind of go. But for now, I'm going to tell you about some ridiculous nonsense that comes from low player count situations.
Hey.
So first I'll tell you about this last week, and then I'll share my screen so you guys can see the metadata dashboard, because I know you all love that, and I can pull out some funny little anecdotes about why small sample sizes are bad. All right. So the number one faction of the week is Drukhari, which will make Scary endlessly happy. And just to indicate how kind of this small sample size is working, there were 10 players in this faction this weekend, just barely skating to the number that we usually use for counting on most weeks. Drukhari had a 71.9% win rate, 2 event wins, 4 top 4s, 7 top 10s, and a 3.73 over rep. So, you know, just some wild nonsense.
Fair and balanced.
Someone nerf Drukhari, please.
They probably won't. Space Wolves are next. 7 players, a 66.2% win rate, 1 event win, 1 top 4, 2 top 10s, and a 1.33. And then we have Sisters of Battle, 13 players, a 65.4% win rate, 2 event wins, 4 top 4, 6 top 10s, and a 2.87 for over rep. In 4th place, we have Blood Angels, 15 players, a 57.7, no event wins, 5 top 4s, 9 top 10s, and a 3.11 for over rep. And then in 5th place is Votan with 10 players, a 57.4% win rate, 2 top 4s, 3 top 10s, and a 1.87 for over rep. So, you know, the stats are made up and everything's a lie is really what we're getting at today. On the other end of things, we have Orcs as the worst faction. It does look like Orcs have been punished perhaps a bit too much.
They were all sent to trucks, so they don't get anything anymore.
It's true. And there were 8 Orcs bravely playing the book for a 35.1% win rate. 1 top 4, which is also their top 10, for a 1.17. So actually perfectly balanced if you just look at over it. Everything's fine. You can ignore Orcs and their pleas for help.
What was their percentage again? Not
their
their
win percentage?
Their meta percentage.
They had 8 players and a 2.1% meta representation, which is a lot lower than where they were at
as a comparison, at the tail end of Leviathan, Orcs made up over 9% of players.
Just right off the cliff. Just right off it. That is the fastest abandonment of a faction I think we've ever seen. Like, even Custodes took like several weeks to get abandoned. Orcs just got abandoned. The truck fell over, and using Gorka Morka rules, everybody died.
What we need to do now, and I'm totally gonna pester Cliff for this, is to see where those Orc players went over the next few weeks.
Ooh, I'm sure he'd actually be very excited to do that.
I know, friend of the show, and in the comments right now, Seth Oster is now playing Tau at ATC instead of Orcs. So,
yep. Second to last is Chaos Knights, 10 players, a 36% win rate, and a single top 10. Deathwatch, there is one lone Watchmaster left, standing all by themselves with a 40% win rate. And no top 10s, no top 4s, and nothing to speak of there. 4th from the bottom is Chaos Space Marines, 28 players, which makes them one of the most popular factions of the weekend, behind, I think, Necrons and Tau. They're tied with Tau. A 41.3% win rate, 1 event win, 3 top 4s, and 4 top 10s for a 1 over rep. You know, perfectly represented. It's fine. Everything's
no
fine.
over rep, just rep.
Just rep. They are just repped. And then 5th from the bottom is regular old Space Marines with a 19 players, a 42% win rate, 1 top 4, and 4 top 10s for a 0.49. So they are half the rep of their spiky brethren. It's probably because they don't have as much trim as their spiky brethren.
No, that's drip, not rep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Damn.
Yeah, can we get an over drip stat going? Future.
Sure. It would really just be sisters at the top. like let's be honest. It would
At
just
least until we get Emperor's Children.
It's true. Otherwise, the other GT winners from the weekend are Tau. They had 28 players, a 46% win rate, 1 event win, 4 top 4s, 8 top 10s for a 1.33. Death Guard won an event with 14 players and a 50.7% win rate, with 1 event win, 3 top 4s, and 3 top 10s for a 2 over rep. Chaos Demons continue to win events, much to Innis's chagrin because he doesn't understand it. 17 players, 51.3% win rate, 1 event win, 2 top 4s, 5 top 10s, and a 1.1.
So, like,
And
perfectly
then,
balanced is what you're saying?
Yeah, perfectly balanced in every way. And then Thousand Suns, who had 9 players, a 56.7% win rate, 1 event win, 3 top 4s, 3 top 10s, and a 3.11 for overrep. This is what happens when you get low sample sizes, is they get hyperinflated very quickly. But also, Thousand Suns might be good. We did say they were probably going to be good. No, Thousand Suns are bad.
Don't look too closely at them.
All right, I'm going to ignore your pink Thousand Suns army that I've seen in person and just pretend that it doesn't exist.
I do want to see how many people get annoyed at that army being pink.
It's amazing. I don't know why anybody would complain about it. It's great. And then, because everybody loves when I share my screen, because it's great. Because everybody gets to watch me be a
I get to see what new tabs you've added.
I actually have added tabs to the top for people to see, and nobody has said anything about them. So it makes me a little sad that I tried to curate it a little bit to be more amusing.
It actually makes it me very annoyed that your Outlook link is just your name instead of Outlook.
I don't control. Oh fuck that really messed everything up. Apparently,
oh, Jesus!
Wow,
let's just refresh
that page. Dang! I hit the little minimize button and it was like, no, you don't, and broke everything. All right, so this is the updated for today data set for Pariah. I'll even make this bigger so it's even better. Hopefully, if it doesn't break something because of the window share. So this is the last couple of weeks of just Pariah-based events. At the top, we have Drukhari with a 61% win rate. That's 32 players and a 2.78. So this is a little bit more illustrative of probably where we're at power-wise, but we probably need another week or two of events just kind of to offset kind of the halvesies for the first week and then kind of a low event participation week. But we're doing okay. Space Wolves are at a 59. Sisters of Battle, despite receiving kind of very large nerfs that made the Sisters of Battle community of players complain excessively everywhere all at once, are still doing great and have 4 event wins since the drop of Pariah, with a 56% win rate and a 2.12 for overrep while maintaining a 42.
They have a 17% 4-0 start across.
It's amazing. It's very good
across 42 players. Ugh. So for anyone who doesn't know, the 4-0 starts should be at like 6%. If you have a perfectly balanced army. Obviously, this don't exist, but like between like 3 and 9% is where most armies tend to settle in. Them sitting at 17% is just wild.
So what you're saying is nerf Deathwatch with their 20% 4-0 event start.
With all 5 players, yes, because that means 1 player started their event 4-0 this week.
That's
in the last 2 weekends.
But the funnier thing is when you click on this like Drukhari thing.
Oh no!
If anybody wants to see a monstrous number, so Real Spurs Raiders have an 83% win rate. This is just one person. They have an 11.13 overrep again because it's one person, and a 100% 4-0 start because again, it's one person.
And the one person running no maiden vigil with a 100% detachment win rate.
Oh, I mean, we can open up that one too. I just want to close this one again.
Yeah.
But this is definitely what happens when you have low sample size, folks. Here it is. No maiden vigil. That one person with that 100% win rate has also an 11.13 overrep ratio. Right? A 100% 4-0 event start and have the only Custodes event win.
Love it.
And a 0% player population.
Balance in all things. So if it's good, it isn't being played, right?
Yep. So currently we have basically what looks like 4 kind of over the window, 55 to 45 that we generally accept as being balanced. Overreps are kind of all over the place because of the amount of data that we've got. Then we have 4 factions who are under, which are Gene Stealer Cults, Orcs, base Codex Space Marines, and then Black Templars.
How the mighty have fallen.
So
I
sad.
know.
We talked
This
a little
is-
bit about them, or at least you guys talked a little bit about them last week, going in and basically taking a look at what exactly had changed. And it's kind of Ennis, yourself and I talked a little bit about what had happened to Black Templars, and it seems like that's starting to stabilize down there, unfortunately. It'll be interesting to see where that goes further on.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is they've been a little competitively abandoned. Their play rate has dropped quite substantially. I mean, 60% with Ironstorm is kind of with one player basically again. Gladius with 8 players is at a 47, and then Righteous Crusaders is at a 29% win rate
across 13 players. So that's really dragging them down. So I think Templars players, if you're listening here, stop playing Crusaders, start playing Gladius.
Yep. Start giving it a go.
Templars players, you can now take Helbrecht and a Lieutenant and 5 Sword Brethren and shove them all in an Impulsor. Your list should all start with that.
That's
right
a
there.
very expensive package, but also that's a very terrifying package to have in an Impulsor.
I mean, you were already taking in Gladius like 15 Sword Brethren and 3 Impulsors and Helbrecht and 2 other characters anyway, so it's not necessarily... You could easily shift the points around to make that happen and still have stuff like your 6 Eradicators.
I guess the question is, do you need it?
But I wanna kill God like all the time.
Fair.
That's fine.
Does
I
it
can
kill
understand
Magnus for
wanting to
-1
kill
damage?
God.
Yeah, stop.
Do they ignore modifiers?
No.
Not in Gladius.
Fair.
They do in Firestorm. You can give the Lieutenant that enhancement and just go, yeah, I don't care. You're still taking 4 damage Deathwing Knights.
Instead of taking Firestorm, I think you just go to Sisters and take Bringers of Flame, the better Firestorm.
It is the better Firestorm. It's so sad.
But here's Sisters of Battle, since I think people will probably be a little bit interested. All their GT wins are in Bringers of Flame, although I think Hallowed Martyrs also won an event, but it was a little bit smaller than what our cutoff is. It was like a 20-ish player, 20 to 22 player event or something like that.
Yeah. Both of them have been doing exceptionally well. It's just that the Hallowed Martyrs seem to be getting filtered out earlier.
Yep.
There's also fewer of them. Like there's 5 people who played Hallowed Martyrs the last 2 weeks, but there's 26 who played Bringers.
It's 5 people. Nobody's gotten a 4-0 event start as of yet. Meanwhile, Bringers of Flame kind of is pulling the faction along by itself by having a 23% 4-0 event start rate. With 26 players over 2 weeks. So Bringers of Flame is probably going to be the best one for a little bit. But I think Hallowed Martyrs is really good. People are just kind of tired of trying to play, I think, the Index Detachment a little bit and are trying new things. Yeah, we'll probably see people go back to Hallowed Martyrs over time.
Everyone knows how Hallowed works, so throw Bringers on the table and be like, hey, this can work too.
And I think Penitent Host and Army of Faith still have legs, as is obvious by their win rate. Penitent Host obviously has one person who went 4-0. But again, this is small data sizes, guys. This is what happens when we're looking at this kind of early before we get a lot of player participation. Some of these numbers will just be a little low, but it's good to kind of keep an eye out for. And that Penitent Host and Army of Faith are still here, kind of in the wings for if something gets nerfed in either Hallowed Martyrs or in Bringers of Flame, right?
I think the interesting thing about all of this is that we're not just reacting to new books, but every faction is reacting to a new mission pack. So,
right,
combined with a new slate as well as a whole plethora of core rule changes as well.
Correct.
Yeah, it really is 10.5 edition.
Yep.
So really, it's like a whole new game.
Yeah, right, and there's like a lot of people are very excited, so I'm going to minimize this now so we can stop sharing it.
I think that actually takes us into the main part of our show then. Frank.
Yeah.
What has Dirtsheets been showing us?
Yeah, so I will not attempt to share my screen because I am on 2 different computers. So I'm a real high-tech operation here. So right now, for just the number of XM1 or winning lists I have, counting this week, including 24-person events, 194 lists, and that top 5 is Blood Angels, Sisters, Drukhari, Tyranids and CSM. So pretty similar to what the rest of the stats are showing. You know, Blood Angels turns out moving 12 just all the time. Real good. Sisters, Bringers of Flame is by and far the new hotness and is really good. Tyranids and Demons are probably two of the bigger winners. That the number of players taking those and doing well with them shot up very quickly. Demons went from having virtually 1 or 2 to sometimes 0 players to 5+ showing up. If you go on the Dirtsheets site, there is a faction popularity chart, and if you look at stuff like Demons, Black Templars, and Orcs, you can see just how much and how quickly stuff is going up and going down. Demons had 8 players 2 weeks ago, coming from their typical of 2 to 3. Sorry, that's my laundry timer. But yeah, it seems like stuff that moves fast is real good, and stuff that can do things really consistently is real good. So
fast gun good, fast good,
or fast
fist.
punch good. Turns out when you have an 80-point unit that can move 12 and punch out a small knight with attacks to spare, it's a pretty good thing. So, but
Maybe.
I do think the Demons change definitely helped them. I think there were some changes in the slate for some of the straggling factions that helped them a lot. I think Nids and Demons were the earliest, the kind of clearest sign of that. Admech got some help. Dark Angels are creeping back up now. There's people not just taking Lion Storm anymore now that they decided to make their most of their weapons good. The Lion still doesn't get a good sweep profile.
Don't remind me of that.
But the Lion can Kool-Aid Man wall through walls when he heroics now. So that's some of the other, like the core rule change. Heroicing for 1 with the Lion is through a wall is kind of terrifying. If it was Index Lion, we'd be cooking. But he showed up in a list that went next someone last week.
His quasi-vect ability is also very interesting.
It's very funny.
So for anyone who doesn't know, the Lion has 3 abilities that he can choose from in his command phase. It can either be an aura of 4 up against mortal wounds, which now works against Dev again, a aura of +1 to hit in melee, or an aura that only affects your opponent, really, where anytime they use a strat within 12 of him, the unit using the strat has to roll a battle shock test. The Dark Angels player gets a CP, and if you fail that battle shock test, the strat fizzles.
It is counterspell the ability. It is hilarious.
And your opponent is entirely responsible for counterspelling themselves in this case.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do. And yeah, you can't go, oh, well, I'll use the strat somewhere else. You count as having used the strat, which now that you can't double up on strats anymore with the CP change means if you fail that, you're just donezo. You just don't get to use that, which can be fairly big. And, he's on a Dreadnought base, so 12 inches around the Lion is not exactly a small piece of real estate. So
yeah, PTS 5, Lion and Calidus is fun. I've been playing into the Calidus a little bit lately. How often is she showing up these days?
Calidus, that is a good question. Oh, there's not a really good search function here. Right. One moment. I have a...
Yeah, I guess the other things that I'm curious about now too is with the changes to like the companions and stuff like that. Like we're starting to see an uptick in companions also coming in as well.
Yeah, because they got double buff. They got a point of AP in all their weapons, and I think they also got an extra attack on their sweep profile.
Right. People have been starting to talk about like taking them in various situations, I think. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what people
Them
pull
plus
out
the
with that.
Lion is a very interesting combination.
They're definitely the stonks are rising on Inner Circle companions. I saw a list that was 2 of them with a Librarian and an Impulsor, so you just have better Blade Guard now, and now they have an Invuln. You can stick Azrael with them, so they get sustained on all of their attacks. So you just the strike that the 622 profile with lethal just gets sustained, and they get an invuln, and then you can stick a second character onto them because Azrael's a chapter master. And I believe they are led by stuff that leads Stern Guard vets, so you can do stuff like stick an apothecary to them, which is it good? Probably not. It's funny, but you know,
Azrael
I'm
and
all
6
about
Limit
stuff.
and Impulsor definitely sounds very fun.
Oh yeah. So Caldus has shown up basically in every Imperial list.
That's gone X and 1 lately.
At least, yeah. Relative to how many of those lists have shown up, the only faction it looks like that hasn't really done it is Blood Angels, and I can kind of see that because the strat nerf didn't really affect them because captains weren't able to lead their best stuff anyway. Death Company already just on the charge are strength 10, either +1 to wound because they have a chaplain, or lethal from Lamarties. They always reroll hits all the time. That's pretty much it. You can't double up on the assault intercessors doing it anymore, which is kind of sad. But I just spend 1 to do it, and you're still fine. Or you can be a hero and take Mephiston because that dude gets to strength 11, which is a very funny break point when you have Lance Lethal.
Oof, yeah, that's wounding baby knights on 2s.
Yeah, re-rolling because he can't lead Blade Guard, so he only leads intercessors. So you just stick that dude on a point and just go, good luck. Also, I fight first.
The fight first is probably the bigger part of that because nothing scarier for a melee army to run into than someone like that who goes, no.
Yeah.
What if you ran into a wall of blades instead?
Yeah. Well, usually a wall of bullets solves that problem.
Fair.
Yeah, gun do help. But yeah, Caldus Assassin, very good. Everybody, turns out the good mission play piece is still a good mission play piece, and now just has an infinitely a better ability, but it's also a riskier play because now you need to put her in a spot where your opponent can maybe shoot her because 12 inches is lone op range. So if their strat is going to get hit by the Caldus, they will be able to, if they can see her, or if they're a plane, just shoot her. So,
yeah. I think there's a lot of play around her of like putting her behind a wall before a key combat or before a key activation, where you can just be like, do you want to heroic? Do you want to interrupt? Do you want to do whatever? It's going to cost you a lot more CP to do this. Against Blood Angels, it's very interesting, where you kind of sit the Caldus behind your main chunk and say, if you want to charge into me and I have fight first, I will just wreck you. Your fight on death will cost you 3 CP, or 2 if you have a captain.
Yeah, typically Blood Angels, playing against Blood Angels, if they have 4 CP, they'll fight first and then fight on death, and you just have a wash of a fight phase, and Caldus makes that go, you need 6 CP now, and you kind of go, well, shit. So, I can see stuff like Inceptors coming back to just drop in within 3 and just go, none of that. Especially Cypher, which I think Cypher's ability is technically different, someone pointed out. He doesn't. His old ability doesn't increase once per game. It's kind of like how the new Lord Deceit is now. So you could theoretically raise something twice if you look at strictly rules as.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I definitely necessarily accept that interpretation. If anything, I would say that he just basically has the same ability. But yeah.
Oh no, I think just putting 3 Archons in front of somebody with 3.
Stop it! No,
only the Warlord gets it.
It's pretty clear. It's right there.
It's funny because I say that despite the fact that I agree that the Warlord conditional is right there in front, and everybody's just kind of like, but what if
the whole thing gets replaced?
Take the whole rule away. Also, I'm very amused at the idea of 3 Archons having it, just because it's funny. It's just funny. You're just getting vected by Vect and his 2 clones. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Vect, Vact, and Vic.
Exactly.
They lost the flying thrones. They had to do something with their life.
Speaking of Drukhari, What is Drukhari taking now that they weren't really taking before then? What's kind of on the rise as far as datasheet usage for them?
Good question. So let's pop back in. Off the top of my head, I can tell you it's pretty much the same stuff they were taking before. Stuff like Incubi, insane number of transports. Drazar has shown up in a non-zero amount of lists. Where
It's just depressing when Drazar shows up in lists now, though.
Yeah, he hasn't shown up his first appearance between like meta version 1.9, which I think is Codex CSM, Codex Tau. For anybody who doesn't know, I use how the stat check, the main dashboard, has meta versions for Codex releases and stuff. I use the same numbering system for Dirtsheets meta version, so we can do stuff like this. We see when a new balance pass or new book comes out, how is stuff quickly impacted. So Drazar didn't really show up, and he has been steadily increasing since the week of the 31st, which I think was the last week of old Leviathan. Everything else, it's pretty much the same. Venom, one Void Raiden bomber is showing up here and there. Because planes are perfectly fair and balanced, and GW did nothing egregious in how they worded their new abilities in that pass.
Are you saying we should take a look at Tau next and see how high the stocks of Tiger Sharks have gone since?
I mean, no, because I don't want to be sad, but we got to do it. So
yes, we might as well do it since you're here and we're talking about data.
I know it showed up at least one list because my friend Zach had one this weekend. However, we were playing it as it's supposed to be played, which is you can't bring it in. You can't act on the turn you bring it in.
I won't lie, but from Seth, that this Drazar talk giving him psychic damage is actually what makes me sad, because Drazar is a shadow of himself. He no longer picks up like 500 to 600 points of an army by himself, which will forever make me sad. I know that's low.
I remember Seth personally losing somewhere between 900 and 1,000 points to Drazar on his own.
500 points per activation, and then he would fight twice and just go.
I did have him kill a whole Chaos Knight's army once by himself, basically. Just one Chaos Knight Armiger at a time as he went through the army.
Now you can do that with a Death Company Dread.
It's true. It did take Drazar several activations. But you can do it in a single.
You could technically do it in a single turn if you got ridiculously lucky.
If you just had all the CP available and your opponent just put everything 5.9 inches away from each other all the time.
Well, no, because you can, if you charge with it, you can get the 6-inch consolidate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You need 2 CP because you need to charge. You would Lance Lethal to make sure you're killing stuff, and then you would spend for the 6-inch. And since both of those are until the end of the phase hasn't ended, so you just go 6, fight with Lance Lethal and full rerolls because you're Death Company. So you reroll hits, reroll wounds, twin linked
forever.
Lance Lethal, and then you kill something, and then you go again, and you just bounce around the board.
Yep.
If you want to know what that looks like.
Because he is like the fists are either 5 attacks at, or would be 6 attacks at 14-3-3 twin linked, or the talons, which would be 8 attacks at 8 or at 10-2-3 twin linked.
And I can briefly check which of the war gear is more popular. It's the talons, whichever one it
gives you more attack, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
because it's basically the only difference between the fists and the talons is strength and AP, in terms of like what's better on one versus the other. But the talons gives you two more base attacks because they're both flat 3 damage.
Yeah, and ideally you're Lance Lethal, so you're strength 12 with Lance. If you're not wounding something with twin linked, if you're not wounding on better than a 3, then
no, sorry, I included the Sons of Sanguinius buff in there. Your strength 8 base.
Oh, okay. Yeah. With the big profile?
Oh no, the big profile is 12. So it's 14 with the with the Sons of Sanguinius.
Yeah,
it so is the I win monolith on 2s with Lance Lethal. Have fun.
And twin linked and reroll hits, and then your opponent gets sad. So yeah. It's funny. Is it good? Maybe not. Is it funny? Absolutely.
Then you should keep playing Death Company. I highly doubt that at Tacoma they will allow people to act with Tiger Sharks turn 1. However, a rapid ingressing Tiger Shark against Blood Angels is a hell of a drug on GW tables. So
Please don't do that.
someone's going to, and I'm going to walk by and go, yeah, all right.
So Tiger Sharks, Frank.
They are
Well,
on
the
the
Tiger
rise. May
One could say it.
24th, the week of May 24th, one list took a Tiger Shark, and then nothing until this past weekend, where 2 of the lists that went X and 1 took at least 1 Tiger Shark, and that is half of the lists that went X and 1 this weekend took at least 1 Tiger Shark. I'm almost confident they took more than 1.
Zach only took 1. And again, I know that's because we were enforcing the rules as clearly intended and written that you can't act when you are set up if you have a base larger than 6 inches.
Yeah, surprisingly, no Tiger Sharks in Crude Hunting Pack. So maybe there's some.
Aw, depressing.
Call Chan, the new person, is a now returning guest, Frank, who does Dirtsheets. It's linked below. Basically, it is a really fun way of tracking the prevalence of data sheets in X and 1 or better lists. So the idea of you can look at that and you can get a pretty good idea of how do you build a Blood Angels list. And you look at that and go, okay, 100% lists have Lamarties, at least 10 Death Company, and then some assortment of other things are in the like 70 to 90% range.
Actually,
Link in
Lamarty's is
chat.
only in 60% of lists. Sorry to interrupt.
What?
Stop it, guys. He's -1 damage and the better part of Lance Lethal. Just do
take
it. He's so good.
Just take the good models, folks. Just take them.
Listen, I'm a guy
Okay.
who doesn't take the good models, and even I'm telling you, take the good model. I was running the Lion for way past when he was actually viable. Take Lamarty's, guys. He just works.
You really should just take the things that work, and it's okay to take the things that work. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you go into list design or faction picking or anything like that. You can just pick what is good. Then that's
But
okay.
for every single WTC player out there, continue your spiraling because we still have 5 days until list submission.
Yeah, guys, 30
Yep.
Van Vits is totally the way.
30 Van Vets or
And
no
it's
Van
just a
Vets.
month. It's like 4 weeks until the event or something like that. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 weeks, guys. You got 4 weeks to get ready.
Yep. In exactly 30 days, we will all be thrown down.
Yep.
And
It
in
was
28
trippy to look
days,
at.
you and I might be thrown down.
Ooh.
But yeah, anyway, Tiger Sharks. 10% of I've lost the plot. 10% of Callion lists, so 1 in 10 Callion lists that have gone X and 1 have taken a Tiger Shark. Because the idea of having sustained 2 on multiple Tiger Sharks fills me with existential fear. And 1 out of the 15 Montca lists. So from basically end of Leviathan going into the first 2 weeks of Pariah Tiger Sharks. If you look at just the Pariah lists, hey, Tiger Sharks, 33% of Callion lists.
Love it. Love to hear
I
it.
can't say I'm particularly surprised. I am very surprised that survived the latest Forge World cull. Like, the Yavara didn't, and it was barely seeing any play, but apparently the Tiger Shark gets to keep stick around.
There's 2 Tiger Sharks, which I didn't even know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there's the
AX10
AX01. Yeah.
And then the regular one.
Does the AX10 still have rules?
I believe so. I think they
I
both
think
do.
so.
I have an app. Why don't I just look at this while we're talking?
I don't know
I
when you
think
ask
so.
when you have access to the entire universe's knowledge in your pocket, basically.
It's true, I do. Yes, they do both still have rules. The AX10 Tiger Shark and the regular Tiger Shark.
Oh, big set. Tiger Sharks, 1 out of 5 Montca lists. 20,
Right,
so
I forgot about
20%.
The AX10 has the most hilarious rule. I remember seeing it come into play a fair bit back when Wraith Knights were still a thing. Because its data sheet ability is Titan Hunter. Its twin heavy rail cannon and seeker missiles have the anti-Titanic 3-up ability while targeting a unit within half range.
Isn't its
the-
range like 120 inches or something
The Twin
ridiculous?
Heavy Rail Cannon is 120 inches, one shot, dev wounds, strength 26, AP 5, 12 damage, dev wounds.
Nice.
I love
Hey.
the strength 26. It's just like, you, monoliths in particular, no.
And you know what would have been funny? Index Lion still wounds him on a 3. Because he was -1 to pour one out.
Don't. Just
I know. But anyway, Tiger Shark, AX, whatever. Real good at killing Canis Rex. Because that dude he's cropping up a bit now.
And the index detachment where you just rolled that 6 with Tetris supporting you, and you kind of go, so that's 3 heads.
Stop it.
And it's anti-titanic 3 up, twin linked. Let's go.
Stop it. Get some help.
Just
Help,
36,
stop it.
36 dev wounds.
No, the funnier thing is when you did it on Overwatch.
Back, remember when Titanic could Overwatch, guys?
Oh, no. I'm pretty sure aircraft can still Overwatch.
No, they can, yeah, because they're not Titanic.
Yeah, so you can still Overwatch with it if you want. Which, if you're anything like our local Zach, he will always hit a 6 on his Hammerhead Overwatches.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anything but.
All right. How many Thunderwolves are we at, though, now? What is the
Ooh.
Thunderwolf cavalry count? Now that
And
we've
how does
seen...
that vary between the OG Wolf Jail Stormlance and what appears to be the new Wolf Jail in Champions of Rust?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Should be
so
really
first of
interesting
all,
to hear.
Champions of Rust. Does everybody know that Space Wolves had their own detachment? That wasn't
Yeah,
accidentally
stop.
printed in the codex? In the main
terrible.
codex? It's fairly it's like inverse Black Templars. Black Templars is you pick a vow, you get an army-wide buff, and then it turns on a secondary ability for a few strats and enhancements. Champions of Rust is you do stuff with character models, not units, and then you unlock army-wide buffs, and now you can pick one at the start of the game to count as completed. So there's no way to track it. I'm imagining almost everyone's picking sustained hits because that turns on the strat that lets you advance and charge. So turn 1 advance and charge with Thunderwolf Cavalry for free.
Can you choose that one?
Yes, the one you cannot choose is +1 OC.
Okay. That was what I thought it was. It's just, I was just like, I think you can't do that one because that one makes Thunder Wolf or just wolves in general very funny because they're OC0 and you go, I could do actions with you now because you're OC1.
You can. There is a strat to flex a character unit into having completed a vow. You can do that because cyber wolves are characters and they lead Fenrisian wolves.
Okay.
So you can.
No. Don't do that.
You can do it. Should you?
No.
No.
I love that the wolves can complete their own sagas.
Look, they just sing really well. They told a good story to the rules writers and said, hey, we've done some pretty cool stuff over the years. Can you just kind of, cut us some slack here? Like, just sing our praises for once.
That Cyberwolf is the one that caught the rhino that it has been chasing forever.
Go get it. Go get the locust. Go get the locust, boy.
He's the one who caught the locust, obviously. He caught it.
No, he's going to establish it, and now he's going to bring it back.
Ah.
It's like a game of fetch.
Fair.
All right, so what are we looking at for cavalry?
So Champions of Rust are rocking, just looking at the Pariah lists. Thunderwolf Cavalry. 3 units of 6, so 3 lists, strictly Pariah Nexus, have taken 18 Thunderwolf Cavalry, and then 6 of whatever characters. Typically, it is at least 1 Wolf Lord, Logan on his sled, so big ol' Santa Claus, and then at least 1, and this is in Champions of the Lieutenants for the once per game Blood Surge and Lethal Hits, which is not bad. And 1/3 of the lists have taken just 12 Thunderwolf Cavalry, which makes sense since you can't turn 1 strat reserve Thunderwolf Cavalry in that detachment. Over in old Stormlance, everybody's just still taking 18. And everybody's still taking lieutenants with enhancements or wolf lords with enhancements. And not so much Logan. People in Stormlance seem to be focusing more on Foot Logan because he's just 100 points of dude. And you take him for his once per game reroll all charges, all hits in melee. So and he doesn't need to be on the board to do that. So
he's quite good. Him on Slay is very funny, although with the pivot rules, he technically got worse.
Yeah.
interesting because like I totally forgot that you could take Logan not on the sleigh. Because I haven't
when he's
seen
on the sleigh, he can lead Thunderwolf Cav.
I know that's the only way that I've seen Logan.
Yep.
I've
I
only
had to
seen
resolve
Logan
a
on the
very
sleigh.
weird charge interaction on stream with him at an event where it was just like, so he made his 9-inch charge, but he doesn't fit because he's too far off of his base to actually make it within an inch.
Yeah,
And of course, this was before the most recent adjustment where they said, if that's the case, you just make it. You put it as close as possible and you count as having made the charge. Which is a very nice quality of life change for things like the Toxicrene, where you kind of went, I don't want to fiddle with this. Or actually came up this happened this weekend with the Mutalith. Canis wanted to charge the Mutalith that was between the wall and another model. And Canis went, how does... And I went, he fits there, don't worry about it. We're just
Everything
not going
will be okay.
We're not going to fiddle too much with this. When you kill the Mutalith tank shock, we'll put him where he's supposed to be.
He fits, therefore he sits.
Well, in this particular case, he fits, therefore he punches me into the sun.
Look, man, I have trauma now from Logan Grimnir after playing against him at Adepticon. The Avatar Kane fought him for 3 turns, and then he got killed by Logan Grimnir.
Please tell me it was the flurry of teeth and claws attacks that did the final point of damage.
So funny.
Probably. I don't know, man. I watched him. He wounded with all of his attacks. He slow rolled it out and made all of his saves 2 combats in a row. And I just kind of like wanted to flip a table.
So a situation like that, what you're saying is that Logan Grimnar on Stormrider is your Drazar.
Correct. Never again. Never again. Actually, let's talk about Aeldari now that we've talked about Space Wolves.
Real quick, one thing I want to point out,
there we go.
a unit that basically hasn't shown up at all, and now all of a sudden is showing up, unsurprisingly, a lot more. Bjorn! Bless you, Jeremy. Because turns out Bjorn has a Vectora, and he's a Dreadnought with a 2-up base save, 5-up feel no pain, and he halves damage.
He is really annoying to kill.
And one of the sagas for Champions of Rust is if you have a character unit below starting strength at the end of either turn, you can turn on an army-wide 6-up feel no pain. So if someone shoots Bjorn, does a point of damage, congratulations. Everybody gets a 6-up now. And you get a 4-up against psychic attacks with a strat. So if you're playing against T-Suns, you can actually probably make saves. Maybe.
Well, now you've got plenty of 4-up and vulnerable saves. You'll be fine. Now that it's...
You technically still have a save characteristic, whether or not you can still make a save with +2 AP.
Which you can for most things.
Yeah, it's not...
Because it means the highest that T-Suns realistically can get is 5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right.
That's what the Sork's little gun. It's anti-infantry 4-up, AP 3 for some reason. Just does finger guns at you. Every now and then someone charges him and he goes, what the hell? And I'm talking about the Aspiring Sorcerer and Rubrics, not the Thousand Sun Sorcerer, because the Thousand Sun Sorcerer's gun is a genuine casino cannon.
Yeah, there's like 2 really good guns in that army, and they're both on characters.
This is true.
All right. Aeldari. What is going on with Eldar? What are they doing now?
Pretty much I don't know, to be honest. So if you look at end of Leviathan, the top units were Swooping Hawks, Warp Spiders, Yvrain troops, support weapons, Farseer Skyrunner, Altark Wayleaper. Going into Pariah, the top units are Warp Spiders, Farseer, Swooping Hawks, Yvrain, support weapons, Striking Scorpions, and Avatar of Cain, and Scourges. And there's a whole bunch of... We have 10 lists, sorry, for Eldar that have gone X and 1 right now. Warp Spiders, still really good. Swooping Hawks, still really good. Avatar of Cain is the one I'm surprised of that's seeing a glow up, because at the end of Leviathan, out of the 18 lists, he was in only 5 of them, which put him at a 27% inclusion. And now we have 10 lists, so we're actually almost there, and he's in half of them.
Nice.
So big dude. I think he's on a circle, right? I
Who?
don't think pivot.
The Avatar?
Avatar?
Yeah, it's on a circle. He's on a circle base. Jeremy, you're muted.
80 mil base?
Yeah, he's on a circle 80 mil base. Why?
Not for pivot reasons, because pivot is, of course, the thing that everyone ends up talking about, but surprisingly doesn't.
I mean, he doesn't get anything extra out of it. He's on a circle.
Well, no, it's more just the fact that wherever his spear is, you don't care now.
That's true. You no longer can just shoot his spear. Well, you can, but
you can. It's just smart Aeldari players to go, and his spear is facing this way. I can't use it for line of sight, but neither can you.
Oh no, I like the Avatar Arcane. It's still funny to use Overwatch and Auto 6 and get sustained.
I hate that interaction so much.
Look, man, if you didn't want to get sustained Melt-a-Lanced, you shouldn't have walked so close to the Avatar.
Fine, eat 2 Doom Bolts.
Fair and mean.
And then I'm going to move within 8 of you in the shooting phase, so you can't Overwatch me and grenade you.
That's really rude. That whole sequence of events makes me depressed, and I don't want to deal with it right now. Also, the fact that Scourges are like on the are a highly ranked unit is always going to be a little amusing because the Ynnari are definitely feeling like maybe more the sub-faction-ish kind of option of choice, with Scourge going up for Drukhari as like one of the few units that went up in points for them.
And yet they're still seeing probably fairly frequent play. I would imagine 2 or 3 in most Drukhari lists, and in actual Ynnari lists, probably still 2 or 3 as well.
So in actual Eldar lists, it's 5 total out of the 10, so they're in about 50% of lists, and it's so far it's split between 1 or 2 units of 5. For
so the question there is, how many of those are Ynnari lists versus Eldari lists? And so the way that you would have to filter that, unfortunately, because it gets a little weird, is look for Yvraine as the warlord.
It's any unit that takes them, though, I think, is technically an Ynnari list. You can't take those units without...
no, but that's what I mean, is that if 5 of 10 Aeldari lists had Scourge, were all of those Aeldari lists Ynnari lists as well?
Don't they all have to be?
I would imagine because Yvraine is
the other
in
5
just
didn't.
Right. I see what you mean. I understand your contention. Okay. I was like, but
I realize I'm
have to be
very poorly here.
My brain was having a hard time fitting around what you're...
That's on me as well. I was just like, I'm talking about the null case here. I think I'm trying to disprove.
I was like, damn it, Jeremy, but that's the rule. They only exist inside this world.
All right. How about your card then?
Real quick, I think it is every Ynnari list, because Yvraine is in half of the Eldar lists, and so all of the Scourge's appearances
makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. So 100% of Ynnari lists still taking Scourge. News at 11.
What a shaka. Drukhari have shown up Scourge's 100% of Real Space Raiders list. So
there's only been
that was the joke.
Oh, okay.
What about the one that everybody cares about, the Sky
Splinter? Oh, actually, also 100% in Sky Splinter.
I'm just gonna flip this table at this point.
Is it like 2 for most of the list, or is it 3?
It is a split between 2 and 1, and no one really takes 3.
I think with the point hikes, it's a lot harder to fit 3 in without giving up some of the scoring that Drukhari is really good at.
Makes sense. Are we still seeing Beastmasters in those top lists as well?
The Beast Pack? I would imagine so. It's a wild data sheet for the 100.
Yep, 81.82% of Sky Splinter lists. So 9 of the 11 that have gone.
And the Drukhari players who are not currently taking that data sheet, go take a close look at everything that it does, how many points it costs, and how much absolute chaos you can cause for your opponent. I was talking about them the other day with Scary, who is in chat right now. And I called them annoying little shits, and he was like, yeah, they could call that too, because they really are.
The real thing is just trying to find those old beast models at this point. You basically have to convert them.
Yeah, you can convert them. For the flocks, there's a whole bunch of really cool
it's more the
or AOS Warcry. It was a Warcry box that had
the Warcry one has
really cool like ravens models.
It's more finding the Clawed Fiend and then the the like 4-legged one, the beast, because those are like only resin fine cast models, I think now.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, I don't think Scary was actually at an event this weekend, so he is not responsible for the shenanigans that have ensued. Well, aside from, teaching every single Drukhari player in the world that's good at what he does how to play the faction.
He did, in fact, not go to an event this weekend. So we don't have to put our Scary filter into the stats. As I have threatened Scary with every week that Drukhari do well, and as I threatened him with at the event in Ottawa.
100% of X1 lists take one Scary.
It's true. There's one Scary.
Well, yeah, that's their Archon.
Ah, that's true.
Yeah. See, there it is, guys. Only one. Yeah, Sky Splendor looks pretty solved. 100% of lists take Witches, Scourges, Raiders, Lilith, Incubi, and an Archon. And then 90% take at least one Venom and one unit of Mandrakes. 80% take at least one unit of Cavalite Warriors and one Beastmaster. So,
how many Tantali?
I imagine not many.
One person out of the 11 that have gone X and 1. So 9%.
Those things are very cool, very interesting, very hard to hide, and kind of made of paper.
And terrible to build.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, like actually legitimately awful to build.
I mean, it's a giant resin kit that has a whole bunch of very thin pieces. It's gonna suck.
Ooh.
If I remember correctly from talking to somebody, it also has like its own little brass floor plate thing that you have to put onto it and things like that.
It does, yes. It's a perforated glass plate that makes up like the
surface of the thing, the ship floor kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what that's actually called, the ship floor, but deck.
There you go. We're real smart today, guys.
We
got there, gang.
This is 2 members of your Drudge crew for Tacoma. We're doing real great.
Oh. All right. And also, since I've seen an uptick in DMs and people asking lately, if you have official rules questions, please do use the US event submissions at wplc.com. It's linked in the Eventbrite page. That's where all the official rules questions answers come from. I can give you my opinion via DM, but if you want the official response, go there.
Same, basically. Just repeat that. Just do that, guys. Just send it to the official thing to get official opinions.
What?
Don't put Jeremy on the spot and make him.
It usually just ends up coming back to me and then being forwarded back out, but at the very least, it then goes through a period of review to make sure I haven't put my foot in my mouth, which I don't often do, but sometimes do.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Everyone makes mistakes.
I think everybody would rather it got peer reviewed and then became a mistake, because then you can blame 6 people.
Thinking.
There you go. I know, right?
If only every other judge had that attitude of peer review is good.
Oh no, it's a team sport at all levels. Do we want to sashay over to plugs to questions?
Yeah.
Did we have any other factions we wanted to briefly talk about?
Ooh, Custodes.
Yes,
that's where we wanted to go. How many Venatari do we have?
So, none in Null Maiden. Venatari, 85% of lists. So 6 out of the 7 lists that have so far gone X and 1 have taken Venatari. It looks like 2 units of 3 is the settled on build. Maybe
that's a
2
nice
of
amount
3.
Of utility.
Maybe 2 of 3, 1 of 6. 1 person out of the 7 took a 6-man. 3 out of the 7 lists have taken 2 of 3. So, okay. And I think that's fine.
Yeah, there was some talk about people running 3x6 and ingressing all 3 of them on the same turn, and I kind of got, yeah, it's cute, but then half your army's in deep strike, and if you go first, it's like, what do I do? I'm turn 3 ingressing half my army.
Yeah, why not? Look, don't pay attention to all the things that happen behind the shadow. Just also, since Where's Gaz asked, what about orcs?
What are orcs?
Were there any X1 orc lists to begin with?
That is a better question.
There was a big hunt list that went X1, so
the Beast Snagga detachment?
The Beast Snagga one. Yeah, so good job. Only 2 Bully Boys lists in all of Pariah have gone X1 so far. 3 Warhorde.
Okay.
I mean, that's not particularly surprising because I'm looking at the orc numbers right now, and every single detachment is below 50%. The Big Hunt actually is the only one that has a Warhorde barely does, but the Big Hunt has a 3.71 overrep, probably because of that one person. But they also didn't have a 4-0 start. Only 1 out of the 21 Warhorde lists have gone 4-0 start, and 1 out of the Bully Boys lists have had a 4-0 start. Aside from that, out of the I don't know, 40 orc players the last little while, 30 orc players. There's only been the 2 that have gone X1 or started with a 4-0. There may be more that have gone X1.
Yeah, altogether it looks like 6 X1, 3 Warhorde, the 1 Big Hunt, and then 2 Bully Boys.
There was that one list, I think, that had an X and O or X and 1 start, maybe for Kyle's Deathwatch chat. I can't remember anymore.
Yes, I have it. It was one list.
All right, give us the list since you have it in Dirtsheets, because it's just going to be the one representation because it'll be 100%.
Yep, it is 1 unit of Voidsmen, 1 Vindicator, 1 unit of Infiltrators, a unit of 6 Inceptors. I'm actually going to just read the list instead of trying to read my dashboard because I'll probably get it wrong.
I was going to say.
Hold on a minute. Let me do the smart thing.
Also, folks in YouTube chat, I'm eventually going to stop just picking your YouTube chats.
All right, so Kyle's Black Spear Deathwatch list from the Portal Summer GT. Jump Pack Captain with the Tome, with a Relic, Shield, and Hammer. 1 unit of Jump Intercessors, 6-man Centurion Dev unit with Last Cannons and Missile Launchers. 2 Deathwatch Terminator units, 3 Assault Cannons and Power Fists, and 2 Hammer and Shields. A Gladiator Reaper. 1 3-man Inceptor with Plasma. 1 6-man Inceptor with Plasma. 1 3-man Inceptor with Bolters. A unit of Infiltrators. Unit with Vindicator, or a unit of 1 Vindicator, and a unit of Voidsmen.
It's a very odd list.
Don't know what to do with that, but there you go. That is your one X and O Deathwatch list.
It is possible.
Yep, you can try it.
Godspeed.
Or you could just take 6 sisters and just.
You could
avoid that whole
actual Marines.
Mm.
Yeah. Do that too. Even the spiky
in the
ones.
Deathwatch list, there is 1 instance of a Deathwatch unit.
Correct.
No, there's a Watchmaster in there too, right?
No Watchmaster.
Oh, okay, never mind. So there's 2 instances of the Terminators.
Yeah, the only 2 Deathwatch units were Deathwatch Terminators.
Why? Because he wanted to take 3 assault cannons?
Probably.
All right. I'm going to do a half-baked version of the plugs, and then we'll pivot over to show questions. So if you've been listening to us so far, you clearly are either psychos or just enjoy hearing about stats and 40K and general stuff. So if you would like to support the somewhat scuffed and always amazing work that we do, head over to patreon.com/statcheck, where for $5 US a month, you get access to our Discord, all the lovely people in here. You get to harass us about stats updates. You get to ask Frank questions about Dirtsheets. And you also get to be part of some absolutely hilariously wonderful things like the Vibe Check League that's going on right now, as well as the creation of sometimes some very weird memes like the Hog's Head dice and objective markers that we're having made now.
Just the Chaos Knights channel.
It's just a genuinely lovely place. I have nothing wrong with it aside from wondering how it transpired. So go check that out. While you're doing that and you're online, go check out our main sponsor, which is the Red Dragon Comics, Cards, and Games up here in Ottawa. They are my home store. They are a wonderful group. They are partly owned by probably one of the greatest supporters of WTC teams. As last I checked, he was sponsoring Team Scotland, Team USA, Team Canada at the same time as supporting StatCheck and some of the work that we do. So that's Dan Morris. Go shout him out in the StatCheck Discord. He's a super awesome guy. He's the one that enables us to do a lot of the cool stuff we do with merch. So check them out at red-dragon.ca. And if you're a StatCheck patron, you can head over to the Patreon, and there is a code for 20% off the entire Red Dragon store there, including StatCheck merch, I think. And then we have a few other fun sponsors. We have Wayland Yutani. They are the official terrain creator, designer, provider for the WTC. We use them for all of our events here at with the events team that I work with. They make some really nice stuff, so check them out. The link to them is down below. I think it's wayland-utani-inc.com, but I always get that wrong. We also have a discount code in there. I think it's StatCheck5 for 5% off your order.
It's in the comments.
Yeah, go check it out in the comments. Check out Saltire Games on Etsy. Their link is down there as well. AJ over there does some amazing work. I'm still using his Battleshock tokens as well as his Deep Strike and Aura gauges in pretty much every game that I play. Yeah, amazing work. He does a lot of good work with Team Scotland, and also just has some just genuinely nice stuff there. Again, link and discount code is down there. And then finally, in terms of store sponsors, we also have J15 Games out in, I believe, California, West Coast, United States. They do some really nice stuff, and I'm actually going to pivot away here because I want to grab it.
They're in San Diego, if I remember correctly.
Jeremy, did you take 2 inches off of your move when you did that pivot?
I'm on a round base. I'm in an infantry.
Jeremy's on a circle. I was going to say Jeremy's infantry.
Yeah.
Oh,
are you implying that I'm mounted or something here?
I mean, there is a chair.
Yeah, but it's also on a round base. It spins. Anyways, J15 Games, they do a lot of gamer aids. They've used, if you've seen them on stream, the World Eater's Blood God Blessing tracker, which is just a fantastic tool. They do a bunch of other things like game trackers, wound markers. But the thing that I want to shill here, because I got it last week and I bought it from them and have just been putting it together and I really love it, is their pre-painted terrain that they do on for the Games Workshop Open. So basically what was Leviathan, now Pariah style terrain. And so they have a full kit there that either comes pre-painted, unpainted, and it's just really nice to put together. And for pre-painted stuff, it's actually quite nice to work with. So go check them out. Again, link is down below. That's J15 Games. And I think we have a 10% off coupon with them. The other cool thing that he did, and I had a good chuckle talking with their Anthony, not our Anthony, about the base plates that they do for those terrain pieces. One of the options you can have is frosted acrylic. And so it's really nice because it's been like buffed down and smoothed out. So it doesn't have the annoying glare. You always see it when it's on the table, but you still see like the mat through it. And it also doesn't have any sharp bird edges like you sometimes get from freshly cut acrylic. So just general shill, but also like kudos to the creators for doing a really good job with that terrain. I don't often buy terrain, but every now and then I want something to practice on the different sets.
Nice.
I think that is all the major ones. We do have many other shows. Go check out the YouTube page. All of our shows are on there, with the sole exception of Champions of 40K, which is done by the wonderful Steve Joel down in New Zealand. Check him out on our podcast feed. If you're listening to this right now, you know where our podcast feed is. If you're watching us right now, the link is on our website somewhere. I know that I've put it there. We also offer coaching. Go check out coaching if you're interested in getting it from almost any of the StatCheck crew at this point.
Yeah, I think it's basically everybody. If you send something requesting me, though, you're going to be very disappointed.
No, they're going to ask you for Crusade coaching.
Sure, I'll coach your Crusade League. I don't care. Fine, it's fine.
Different spokes for different folks.
If you want
all
that,
right, shall we pivot over to show questions then?
Sure. Before we go to show questions, I will say one thing. Thanks to everybody for donating money during the last month. We were able to donate over $2,300 to LGBTQ plus focused charities in June, at the end of Pride Month, which was amazing. So we ended up donating $750 to 3 different charities, then covered all of the donation fees for them as well, so that they received all of the money and not some random percentage of the money that we sent them. So thank you everybody for your suggestions, and thank you everybody for donating either super chats or joining Patreon and stuff like that, or liking videos and such, because all of that contributed to those causes. So thank you. If you want your question answered on air, you either have to super chat it or post it in YouTube, or join our Patreon at patreon.com/statcheck. And then for $5 a month, you can ask me questions, and Jeremy questions, and Anthony questions, and Innes questions live on air for funsies. Otherwise, I'm going to start in our Discord, and I'm going to jump into the main show questions. And if you don't ask your main show question in the show questions thread, I will not be able to do it. All right. First question is from Sam. In the Age of Sigmar Worlds Teams event, their round win differential threshold is 1 point, meaning that you need 81 points to win the round. What do you think about having such a narrow draw band for a teams event, and why does 40k stick to the 6 differentials for 8 mans?
And 1 point for draws.
That
I
is
think it,
tight.
that is very tight. I think the simple answer to that is like an 81 point round would mean that you had 7 draws in a single 11-9, which doesn't really feel like a win. It feels like you got lucky in one game and then everything else just finished even. I like the premise of the differential basically making for a clear win both in the game and in the team environment, I think is the better way to do it. It also, I guess, somewhat shields you against the, hey, we were really close to winning and then one dice roll at the end failed and one guy ended up down 6 points and we ended up losing 81-79. But I don't know why they stick with it. I think it's a question for the larger WTC community. I've never questioned it too much. I like the differential system. I like the feeling like it's a clear win as opposed to we were very close. Ishik in chat, Pizza Guardian says, in general, the idea is if a team wins all matches 11-9, it should be a team win, which is very close to what it is right now. It's 86 points for a win, so it's 6 11-9s and 2 10-10s. So you've won the majority of your games, not just won one game.
I think it also, with that differential, it gives incentive for the players in the bad matchups to go, hey, fight for every point. Because if you go into a matchup where you're expecting a 17-3 loss and you can come out saying, hey, I made it a 15-5 or a 16-4, that's, you still contributed to the team.
Yeah.
In the overall. So
it also makes those tight rounds even more interesting. Because like if one team comes out of it saying we predicted an 85, it gets an 81, well, you know, that's a draw and a draw in WTC, but in AOS worlds, that's a win and a win. Whereas if it's 86 and 81, well, that's a win and a draw in WTC. So I don't know. I think it's the community can always change it. The WTC is by the players for the players. There have been multiple things that I've witnessed in Captain's Chat this year where it's been very much of a, hey, we don't really like how this is working. Can we do X? And then it goes to the community, and there's a largely somewhat majority, somewhat consensus-driven approach to changing things and solving things.
All right. Next question is from Kells. Thoughts on the new UKTC layouts?
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one, even though I'm Canadian.
I'm also going to abandon this one. I don't know anything about them. This is a question
that should be asked again when Innes is on the show, but even then, I think it should be asked after WTC, because I think everyone on the show right now is so focused on preparing for the World Team Championships that we just aren't paying attention to anything else. Like, I have looked at the new Pariah layouts because I know I'm going to have to set up 100 or 200 of them next week, but I haven't played on them because mainly been focused. It's the same thing. Like, I built that really nice terrain from J15. I was like, I want to play on this, but it's not really going to be useful to me until after WTC when I start prepping for Champs Cup.
Andrew the Bear asks, I'm running a small RTT to ease some locals into matched play. Which Pariah Nexus missions in the tournament pack mission would be good? Mostly looking to avoid bad experiences for the players. Thanks.
This one I can help you out with because I have done this for quite a few people now. Do not play Sweeping. Do not play Dawn. So that's 4 out. You're left with 16 maps. Do not play, in my mind, Burden of Trust primary, just because it can seem it feels bad. I don't know if it is yet. My opinion on this may change over the next little while. But Burden of Trust has an issue where the player going first scores their guard primary on turns 2, 3, 4, and 5, whereas the player going second only scores it on 3, 4, and 5. Or no, 2, 3, and they score it 3 times instead of 4 times. I can't remember the exact number. 3, 4, and 5 they scored on because it's scored at the end of your opponent's turn and it doesn't score at the end of game. So it can be a little bit of an uneven feeling if you go first on that mission and they're able to set up some good guards. So that takes out, I think, one more. I would then not play Stalwarts. And that's just because Stalwarts gives battle line the ability to advance and act or shoot in action, as well as the ability for battle line to action while in combat. And I feel like because of the disparity between certain armies, that is a significant impact. And I say this as a Thousand Sons player right now. It wouldn't feel right to me to be playing that when I have like 25 rubrics on the table going, so I can action and shoot. Because the thing is that the stalwarts tags in the Pariah Nexus Tournament Companion are all tied to action primaries. Things like Terraform, Ritual, and Scorched Earth. So in all those cases, you can do the action and still shoot. And that's feel great for like if you're playing, say, I don't know, Blood Angels, where your sole source of battle line is a unit or two of assault intercessors.
Yeah.
Hey, I can shoot my pistols when I action, but I don't want to do that because I want to charge you. And I think if you take all those out, you've eliminated most of the potential feels bads. When it comes to terrain, it depends. If you're playing WTC layouts, be very careful with tipping point. If I remember correctly, maps 53 and 54, which are two of the medium layouts, are really open and can lead to some pretty poor player experiences. But again, that's more of a like, look at your map layouts, think about where the firing lanes are and be like, is this a good map or not? We had to do a couple of those hot swaps for our GT this weekend after people realized that the map in the original pack for tipping point just led to go second and die for a lot of players. And so we passed it to our TL and went, hey, can we? And she was very gracious. Yes, do this. But yeah, Ishik, yes, some of the WTC maps are the best maps. Some of them we need some work on. But again, as always, you guys are amazing because the WTC listens to feedback. And if people give them constructive changes to make the maps and make them better, they incorporate them. So that's good. Yeah. So in terms of missions, I would avoid those. I don't know what that actually comes down to. I think I struck it out and it comes down. I think you end up with like 12 missions you can choose from. In fact, someone asked me about this a little while ago. I don't have it in this chat, so I'll come up later. But yeah,
you can always add them to the video comments later as well.
Yes, that may be what I do if someone can remind me to do it later. But yeah, avoid sweeping, avoid dawn, avoid stalwarts, and avoid burden of trust. Once you knock those four things out, you generally have a pretty solid mission pack.
Nice. All right. Georgie Boy asks, what armies do you think will be on the NATC 5-man winning team? I assume they just mean the ATC event that's happening this weekend, right?
Yeah,
That's
the
team event?
NATC, ATC, the North American Team Championship. I'm assuming that's what.
I would assume Sisters is going to be one.
Blood Angels.
It's probably a good one.
I'd put T-Sons in there.
Thousand Sons, yeah. Oh, man.
Probably Tau because they've ruled that Tiger Shark can act the turn they're set up.
That would be fair. That would be a good Tau one. I guess Tyranids
and also
might be a
fast
fifth.
gun good.
I think Tyranids might make it to a 5-man team. Maybe it's possible.
I could see Tyranids being on there at that, or maybe
Could probably also
won't be World Eaters.
Yep.
Maybe Drukhari because
the stats so far don't have shown that they play the new missions very well. So maybe
Space Wolves. Oh,
let's not get crazy now.
Hold on a minute. A lot of people flexing their cyber wolves to get bonus OC.
Hey, you know what? More power to them. All right. That one guy, John, asks, are secret missions as cancer for teams as they first appeared? I don't know that we know the answer to this yet.
From initial play, I would say no. And the main reason I say no is, yes, they can result in big primary swings, but you also know when they're going to happen. So you can basically either plan for it in the position of, hey, I'm going to, I'm playing a pressure list into someone, but they are going to table me on 4. I need to make sure that they can't score that secret, or they're going to score that secret and my diff will just be 4 points lower because it's 20 primary points that they're going to score. We did have Zach, and I'm going to call him out here because it was hilarious, at our event this weekend, lose to a secret mission. In fact, he was the second person in my little local group chat who lost to a secret mission to the same player. So round one, a friend of ours was playing into this Imperial Knights player, and we were playing Supply Drop, and Supply Drop being not a great mission. There was a lot of primary denial going on, and so the Knight player took the secret mission to put his warlord, Canis Rex, on her home objective. I walked by after my game had finished and saw it was like that bottom of 3, and Canis was just sitting there shooting from her home, and I went, that's bad. She's like, I can't kill him now. He's killed my anti-tank. I cannot take that objective away. And so he's just going to get the 20. And because he kept shooting her off of the no man's land objectives, he won on primary. Fast forward round 2, Zach plays against this Imperial Knight player and loses to Unbroken Wall by 1 point on differential. Because there was some whiffs involved, but the Knight player saw the out of, because this was Linchpin, where you're scoring 3 for your home, 5 for no man's if you hold your home. And he was in a position where Zach was going to clear him off of his home, so he was going to score very little on primary for a turn. And he went, I'll just secret mission and go for Unbroken Wall, and got it. So their nicknames in our group chat are now Lost to a Secret Mission and also Lost to a Secret Mission.
Brutal.
Yeah, so they are definitely impactful. Can definitely swing games. You just need to be aware of it, and you know when it's happening to you. Most of them largely require you to be going second to really work out. Yeah.
You can also hard counter 2 of them by killing their warlord. I mean, it's easier said than done, but you could just kill their warlord or just kill their battle line, and then they just
that doesn't counter Unbroken Wall, unfortunately.
That doesn't counter Unbroken Wall or.
And when you're playing into the Imperial Knight play, you go, so I got to kill your battle line and your warlord, so I just have to table you. Because he was playing 1 big, 9 small. You kind of looked at the board.
Oh,
the army
that is just the tabling.
What do I do?
I mean, you just table them.
Valentine, yes, that was Sebastian. I played him round 4 on stream. He was a gem to play. I played probably one of the worst round 1s of our battle round 1s of the tournament, and threw away Magnus. And then just kind of clutched my sheet really, really hard and drew out the game to a 10-10 against him.
Nice.
But he's a very talented player, and definitely shout out to him for beating both of those players who were quite solid, one of which being a member of Team Canada, with Knights, which is an army that I think people are underestimating right now.
The second part of the question from that one guy, John, was, does the proliferation of jail lists mean that the damage reduction has gone too far for some armies/units? I don't think so. I don't
think so either. I don't actually know if they're like super a problem. Like, yes, going into a jail list second can suck, but I don't think they're unkillable. They just hold you back for a turn or 2. And hilariously, now with secret missions now mean that they are significantly less impactful. Like, you put someone in Wolf Jail and they table you, they probably win the game.
I do think that Wolf Jail is also like one of those situations where people need to remember that those units mostly just have 4-up invulnerable saves at a certain point, and your opponent can just 4-up invulnerable you to death. Like, that's a thing that can happen. But you can also watch your opponent fail too many of them and their whole army disappear.
You can put a castigator that's only AP1 into them and pick up an entire wolf squad and go, oh, that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, like that will happen every now and then too. And before Logan decided to tank every single avatar blow in history, I had no problem dealing with Thunderwolf Cavalry and Logan. Mostly because that other opponent did not make any 4-up invulnerable saves, basically. You can just pick up some of those. I don't think any of the jail things are so durable that you can't break them, but you can just get pressured into a corner, and then I think some people get pressured into the corner and then stop looking for their outs sometimes. And then when you stop looking for your outs, you lose. You can also just lose. Like, that's a thing. But sometimes if you get put into jail, you stop looking for a way to get out of jail. And you just like, well, I guess I'm in jail now. Sucks to suck.
Wolf Jail also got less durable with the strat change because now they can't double up on -1 to hit and wounded shooting. So that is,
or even AOC for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. So shooting armies have a slightly better time into them because now you shoot
They
one.
also have fewer resources because wolves all went up 10 points a model.
Yeah, that's 600 points plus about 200. Hello. Sorry, my daughter just walked in and she's grabbing.
Oh no, that's where
she's grabbing a jump intercessor immediately.
Starting her
Look.
early, we see.
Yeah, she wants to play dudes.
Ah, I like it.
Those are
I
the
think
best
that's a
dudes.
better name for Warhammer 40k is just dudes 40k.
That's why I like calling them dollies whenever people get a little too touchy about them.
Or
One
Warhammer
second,
40 dudes.
All right.
We will go to the next question since it's about Pyro.
Yeah, I guess skip forward to Jeff's question.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Pius's question, which is what happened at Pyra, but I guess we can't really answer what happened at Pyra.
No, because none of us were here. We're at Pyra, and I will also say that even if Innes was here, he probably wouldn't tell us. Aside from France won, Scotland did better than they did at the last Pyra, and Poland did pretty well. Because that's all we really know is the results. We don't know what was played there.
And I don't think anybody's surprised by anything that was just involved in anything that we said.
France winning,
although
was
France
a bit of a surprise.
did
But France also finally realized that they should pick up Sacco and.
You mean all the French people who are just in other countries?
Well, more like the French people that were just Belgian mercs last year.
Yes. I don't know. That seems like a good idea. Why not just have Sacco play for you? Who knows? All right. Jeff's question is, how impactful are the unfairly maligned Tiger Sharks looking for the haves versus have-nots? I think people need to remember that, like, they immediately ignored that there's a totally different rule that tells you that your unit can't act if it can't fit, and are looking at the other rule.
We're looking at an FAQ entry, and largely FAQs are supposed to be clarity on things that are unclear, and that was not unclear in the first point. I will say for anyone attending Tacoma, I have been told, and we will repeat this elsewhere, you cannot act with a Tiger Shark to turn it so.
Yep.
But and again, if you're not sure, email. I put it in the doobly-doo.
I also am going to reiterate something that I think people need to be reminded of is never, especially now that we've seen Forge World units regularly get Legends don't buy extremely expensive resin miniatures as like the crux for your army that are only going to be around like for a month or something like that, because you don't like if like there's a number of rules clarifications, they could just get pointed differently in the next balance data slate. Like you don't want to make your entire list built around one unit. That's very expensive and from Forge World at this point. You don't know in 6 months, maybe Forge World is just going to get, just to Titans. What are you going to do about it then when you have nothing? Sorry to be the downer. I've seen many a beautiful Tiger Shark as of late painted and put into hobby channels, and I'm like, I love that you're doing this. That's a great model, and it's very beautiful the way that you painted it, but I hope that you don't have a serious emotional attachment to it.
It will make for a nice centerpiece on a hobby board, just like Seth and his 24 Grot tanks.
True. That was the most depressing for a lot of people. Isaac T has 2 questions. The first one of which is, I
real quick on the Tiger Shark. I was on mute for a second. Sorry.
Oh,
but
bud.
Yeah, the Tiger Shark not shown up in as many lists as you would expect. So you can do well. You can go X and 1 or win an event and not take a Tiger Shark. You should probably just play Monka because fast gun good. And
fast gun good.
Be a real hero and scout 2 storm surges and then auto advance 1 for 6 and then go, now what?
It's a different kind of jail list. It's the greater good jail. I don't know, man. I ran out of ideas halfway through that anecdote. All right. Isaac T's first question is, I have noticed a trend in Blood Angels lists is that Vanguard veterans units have either become a 30 or 0 type of unit. How often is it that unit gets polarized? That a unit gets polarized in this way? Sorry, I was reading that question and got confused by it in the first half, but
You're good.
and the second
I think
half
this
didn't help
happens-
me as much as I thought.
I think this happens fairly frequently. So the question
Yeah.
here basically is, when is it an all or nothing approach? I'll use Custodes as an example. Caladius tanks tend to be taken 2 or none. Knights in teams environments tends to be taken both or none from a toughness skew perspective. It's not that unusual, but from like a unit comp perspective, if something's really good or perceived to be really good, you'll usually just see people running max size of them, like Thunderwolf Cav. You are seeing 18 of them in Stormlance, or different number elsewhere.
12, at least 12 to 18.
So, like, the idea for Van Vets being 30 or 0, it's either you hit that critical mass of Van Vet bodies of 4 up armor, 5 up feel no pain, 4 up invuln, or 3 up armor, 4 up invuln, 5 up feel no pain, or you go Death Company hard, or you go heavier on the Assault Intercessors. Either way, you're going jump pack heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it depends on like the detachment, but I would say, yeah, probably happens fairly frequently. It's also a similar concept to like anybody who plays Magic the Gathering, where if something's good, you take more of it. Because if you lose that one good thing, you can still do the good thing because you have backups of it. And Van Vet's Sang Priests are 310, which is not it's a fairly inexpensive package for a tougher than the average Marine. Although you are
For what it puts out, which is 50 attacks, it's 721 on the charge.
with lethal innate on the charge. So
it's pretty good. But then you look at it and be like, well, why don't I just go with Death Company, because they have rerolls to hit,
and they have 10-2-2. So it's
they're more expensive and less durable, but they're still really good.
Skew is also always just going to be a thing. So there are going to be units where you're just like, if I take 30 of these, I will skew my opponent's weapon profile so that they have to make more decisions and make more failure points for their play pattern, basically. That's always going to exist. People used to do that when they had like 8 Dreadnought lists and stuff like that, which is still a thing and probably will be a thing again in the future sometime soon, I'm sure. Isaac's second question, I think, is mostly just for Jeremy to answer, which is, I'm going to attempt Tacoma as my first GW Open. Anything that I should be aware of that is treated differently there than at other events? Would it be an issue if I requested a clock? How would it be for 3D printed weapons to be an issue, etc.? Looking forward to seeing people there.
Most of those answers are available in the player pack that you can find on the Eventbrite page. That should have been sent to you. As always, what does the pack say is my first answer, but I will answer a few of those from what is in the pack. Clocks are not enforced at the Open. You can use them as a guideline for you and your opponent, but at the Opens, what they do is they use a milestone system. So they will be calling out, hey, there is 1 hour and 10 minutes left. You should be starting battle round 3. And what we will do, the judge team, as we're wandering around, is we'll check in and both visually and also verbally check where players are at to see if, there's a bit of slow play or a game that might take a little bit longer to resolve. And as those milestones get progressively further, the further behind you are, the more likely it is you'll have a judge at your table helping make things move smoother, either through telling you what profiles are, how many dice you have to roll, or like saying, you have this card, what do you want to do? Yep. To kind of like guide the game along. We call that walking through games. Most of the time we don't have to do it very often, but the Opens are also the home to a lot of first-time tournament goers who aren't used to playing within time pressures. So we don't want there to be... The policy around clocks is not something that I am involved in, but generally we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to finish their games in a timely manner and also have a bit of downtime and time for lunch and whatnot. In terms of treated differently, not a huge amount. If you're used to WTC rules, know that the wall block thing is not a GW thing. That is a WTC house rule. So if you want to, you can set up your models an inch outside of the wall so that they can't be charged through the wall. But keep in mind that GW's terrain is also smaller than WTC, so it's not too difficult to get around it. 3D printed, it's in the pack. I believe the official policy, do not quote me on this, but I believe the official policy is if you designed and printed it yourself, it's allowed. But that tends to, like, bits and doodads and whatnot, I don't think there's ever been an issue with. It's there again, the link on the email on the Eventbrite page for the email. I think it's useventsubmissions@gwplc.com. You can ask modeling questions there as well. In fact, they even encourage you to, if you have any conversions or scratch builds or 3D printed in this particular case models that you aren't sure about whether they'd be allowed, send them there and they will generally respond in a few days' time, maybe a little bit longer sometimes because it can get very busy leading up to the event.
Yep. My thing is going to remind you, just like college professors remind you, to check the syllabus. You should check your event pack as it has the answer to most of your questions. And as you'll hear from both me and Jeremy, if we come up to a table, if you were there, it'll be, what does your rule say? Similar to, what does the packet say? What does the mission say? What does the card say? Most of the time, that's what you're going to get out of people when they come up to your table as a judge. And so read the packet and double check it. My experience, I emailed them and I had a bunch of conversions approved at the GW Open Chicago when I went. I had like a bunch of conversions approved via them. And they were very responsive and they were very helpful and they approved models very quickly. You'd have to check the specific model policy, but previously it was, they didn't really care about bits for the most part because people have lots of bits that they print for like marine chapters that they make and stuff like that. It's 3D printed models usually that are the problem. So if you have 3D printed models, they tend to get a little bit more feisty about that than anything else. All right. Grant just says Franck.
Thanks, Grant.
It's not really a question. It's just Franck. But then Paul, he then posted a question on behalf of Paul Batello, which says, I've locked in my list for a local RTT, 3 abominants and 6 carnivores. Any tips for playing the suboptimal list?
I mean, that's very much a stat checklist of run forward and hope that your opponent can't kill you by the time you punch them to death. So I think you just lean into that. Don't hold back. Like, leave nothing on you. I hope that you have a sticky. Oh, no, you can't fit the sticky enhancement with that list. I remember going through this. Just score on their corpses or die.
I believe what you need to do is find all your hogs and then crank them. Is what.
There you go.
What you should do is you should head to red-dragon.ca and buy a set of hog objective markers that you can then channel your inner hog.
Oh no, we lost Frank.
Oh no, we lost a Frank.
All right. The next question is, what's your favorite brand of instant noodles? Also from Grant. I'm a big fan of Shin Black as like my favorite. I like my spicy noodles. I also like the Korean brand, which has like buldak and stuff like that, which is great. I have their like extra spicy one that I eat and nobody else wants to eat in my household.
It's nice to have your favorite food that no one else will touch.
Exactly. The question, Frank, is... Oh, sorry. I'm just going to repeat it for Frank. Is what's your favorite brand of instant noodles? And that Grant is an Indomie stan. But Jeremy, go ahead.
I don't really eat instant noodles.
Oh, you never at college?
Well, dang.
I was, but I just made pasta in... I went, like, we had, like, communal kitchens. And so I just always, if I wanted pasta, I just made pasta. Not, like, from scratch. I had boxes of pasta that I just made for myself, but
it's all about that.
I do like
those delicious flavor packets.
I do like the David. I think it's David Chang has a line of instant noodles out that are really good.
I think it is.
Yeah, Momofuku. They're really good.
Yeah, I've had really good things. Up here we have Mr. Noodles, which is like the quintessential Canadian instant noodle brand. But I also do really like the Shin Ramyun brand. However, I've recently discovered one. It's funny. Our local discount store actually has better instant noodle and like instant ramen options than our regular grocery stores do. Go figure. But they have some really nice ones. One is a black bean kind of flavored ramen, and it actually has like a black bean paste that gets put in there. And yeah, it's delicious.
Right, the next question is from Dan F. Speaking of hogs and cranking, what are the CK lists looking like using 2 boss hogs?
Non-existent, unfortunately. It is.
There you go. That is.
It is still 5 carnivores, 5 brigands, 1 stalker, fewer nurglings, but not by much, and
we're seeing more plague bears.
Yes, which is to say, we are seeing plague bears.
They were talking a lot before, and when Nurglings got hit, they're like, I mean, they give sticky objectives and their battle line, which means that you're basically trading for a little bit of point availability because it's 120 for 10 of them. For a bigger
But it's
footprint.
also 10 of them, so
Yeah, exactly. Which it's the same price as, it's close to the same price as what 2 units of Nurglings or 3 units of Nurglings was before. But a bigger footprint actually has OC now, stickies objectives.
can't do shit.
Might be able to not die instantaneously when looked at harder than like a glare.
Yeah.
True. Although I found Nurglings tend to be surprisingly resilient, almost disgustingly so.
Mm.
Garan, your first question is one that we cannot answer because we do not know what Anthony does for things. But your second question, how does a strong and competitive viable champion of Rustlift look like in Pariah, can definitely be answered by Frank.
Number one, existent. I'll tell you that right now.
That's a change from Leviathan.
Yeah, I think there was one in all of Leviathan. So, yeah, so looking at raw data, right now we only have 3 lists that went X and 1. So, you know, they're not exactly setting the world on fire, but also only 3 Stormlance lists. So,
again, as we've mentioned at the beginning of the show, very few games being played right now.
Yeah.
But
interesting to know that it's
4th of July is having.
Yeah. But interesting to know that it is 1-to-1 with the old Wolf list. So you're going to want scouts. Of course, you're going to just, guys, take Ragnar Blackmane. He is so far in 100%. Keep it up there because that dude hits like a truck. He has innate advance in charge. He has like 10 attacks at 8-4-2 or something. He gets +2 attacks and strength on the charge, innate sustained hits. So
him with a unit of Assault Intercessor seems really good because then you also get the wound rerolls.
Yeah, it's really funny. That dude is a monster. And again, innate advance in charge. So like, just take him. Wolfen, which are still showing up, but unsurprisingly, all of their guns seem to have disappeared since they, that doesn't work anymore. Although Champions of no, you can't flex Wolfen into the OC because no one can lead Wolfen. So you would have to give them OC by actually taking your opponent's home objective.
Yeah. I think also they also went up in points. I think they went up 10 points for 5. And I think you would still run them with guns because the guns are good and they don't cost you anything.
Yeah, like they're fine, they're good. They're really good at like killing trash.
Yeah, and in Suns they can do some, or not Suns, in Champions they can do some serious damage.
Yeah. Yeah, because you'll get innate sustained, advance in charge. Boom. Probably take Bjorn, because again, you can double vect. One of them being on a big ass dreadnought with a 5-up and half damage. You're going to take probably 12, maybe 18 cavalry. That is dependent probably just on what the rest of your list looks like. You're going to take lieutenants for those. Probably take Santa Claus and 1 Wolf Lord. Enhancement-wise, you can... Since no one really knows what all the enhancements does, you can take whatever you want for enhancements. Like they're all perfectly average. I think Frost Weapon is like +1 strength, AP, and precision, which is good on a unit on a Thunderwolf Lord with 7 attacks with his Lightning Claws with Twin Linked and damage too. So not nothing. Black Death is you get anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4, which you can put on a Thunder Hammer, which on a Wolf Lord goes up to 3 damage, which is pretty good. And then,
I'm now reminded of a Blunderdome list that I wrote that had the sole character and sole source of OC in a Wolf list was a lieutenant with 2 pistols that had Black Death. So his lovely little close combat weapon had anti-monster vehicle 4-up.
Reminds me of a list I saw that was running Templars and they took Witch Seeker bolts on their Tech Marine. So
that actually is useful.
They were anti-cycling, just like tapping out demons that were halfway dead. Just be like, yeah, it's Dev Wounds 2 damage, anti-cycle 3. So dead
Forge
now.
Bolter is legitimately good.
Yeah, it's a non-insignificant amount of guns. But yeah,
0.
You probably take a Stormlance list, cut out 1 unit of Cav, most of the Wolfen, add in Bjorn. a Ragnar package. You don't necessarily need to give him a transport because he will always advance in charge. You could put him in an impulsor. You could put him in an impulsor with 6 Blade Guard. Also, Blade Guard, another unit that exists now, showing up more in a bunch of different builds. There was a BA list that took one. Salamanders have been taking them more in Firestorm because they have really good support from one of the 2 characters that they get in that book. So, but yeah, Champions of Rust. It's pretty wide open. So go forth and do what you wish, as long as you take Ragnar and Bjorn.
There you go. All right. The next question is from Derek, which is, when will the great winged evils leave our skies? Planes go and stay go. Never. Every edition from now until the apocalypse is going to have planes in it, and
It's
you're
like
just going to have to get over it.
Triptide comes for all.
Yep.
Run from it, dread it. Flyer still arrives.
Yeah.
Off the
Frank,
board.
you have a question just for you, which is, what's your favorite kind of egg?
Oh, what did I say last time? I think I said an omelet or scrambled. And I think that's
but what
it.
kind of omelet?
I have a very boring palate. So just like bacon and some cheese. That's really it.
That is a respectable answer. I'm not gonna lie.
I also, my favorite like dish where an egg is part of an ingredient is carbonara.
Ooh, that's a good choice though.
That's
a good one.
Carbonara better than Alfredo. Come at me.
I mean,
I
that's
don't
not
even think that's a hot take there.
I mean,
think
that's
the
not
only
even
thing
a hot take.
in terms of
That
like
is an
quintessential
ice-cold
pasta
take.
dishes that are good, I would say the only one that's probably better than carbonara is cacio e pepe.
It has to be done well though.
Oh yeah, but we're assuming that they're like being properly
The
prepared.
the floor is higher for carbonara. The
Yes.
ceiling is higher for cacio e pepe. All right.
Carbonara, high skill floor pasta dish.
Exactly. Thank you for vibing with that particular comment. Jeremy, not the Jeremy who's on the show, but Jeremy H says, Drukhari are sitting at a 61% win rate. How much exactly, italicized, does the Drukhari win rate go down when you remove Skari from the dataset? Are there any other examples of faction specialists notably inflating win percentages?
Definitely
Skari
not
didn't play
World
last.
Eaters.
Definitely not even once.
No,
in World
no,
Eaters.
yeah, I didn't.
Not even a single time.
Well, no, because that would require that man to play singles.
Yeah, but when he played singles, it might have happened. But that would mostly affect other parameters, I think, aside from win rate. Like, it will affect other things.
I think
We
that
mostly
like overrep and top
joke.
4 and 4-0 starts. But yeah, like Skari for Drukhari often gets joked about, but the Drukhari play rate is high enough that one player doesn't skew it by more than 1 or 2 like percentage points. We often joke about the same thing with John Lennon and the weekends that he plays, and when he's at events with Tyranids, because he tends to do the same thing. Anthony from the show with World Eaters. But at the same time, you could go back and look at it and be like, even if you pull them out of those specific weekends, it's a tiny movement just because of how much 40K is being played.
Yep. Unless the faction is like Deathwatch or Gene Stealer Cult, like there's too many games being played on a regular basis for one player to, like Jeremy said, do more than 1 or 2 percentage points, and usually it's less than that in a lot of cases. Drukhari actually don't have such a high play rate. Yeah, it's a lot of things. Like sometimes it's true. Like if one player just plays every weekend from now until forever, they can contribute a lot of games in the data set. But for the most part, not really.
Real quick, this question just made me think of removing Skari from the mix, and then it just made me think of a pro wrestling joke about adding Kurt Angle to the mix. And if anybody's familiar with the Steiner Math promo, friendly reminder to just go watch Steiner Math again, because it's the greatest pro wrestling promo of our generation.
The next one is from Ben McJurick. What is your go-to 40K victory treat or meal?
Shawarma.
Mine is now Jeremy's shawarma place.
So I have a funny story about that. The other day, someone asked me, what shawarma place did you take Anthony and Nathan to? Because they're both hype about it. And I went, no, it's the Shawarma Palace up on the internet. And he was like, that place sucks. I went, every time I've been there, it's been great. I've taken my parents there and they loved it. So and he's like, yeah, one time I went and it was just like all dry and bad. And I went, turns out you can get a bad day, I guess. But it was very funny.
No place has a 100% hit rate is something to recognize. Like, eventually you're going to go to a regular place and you're going to be sad about it because they're like not going to make it correctly, or they're going to make a mistake, or they're going to like burn it a little bit or something. Like, no restaurant is good 100% of the time. Sorry.
Wait, are you
folks.
telling me humans are imperfect creatures and can't replicate things 100% every single
all of them,
time?
all of them except for me. I am perfect all the time, 100% of the time.
Just
Don't
don't
look
ever
behind the
step foot
curtain.
in his lab.
Exactly. Never look at any experiment I've ever done or project I've worked on. How about you, though, Frank? What is your 40K treat and or meal?
Treat, if we're talking like not a food, usually like a character model. I'll just go like grab a thing. Just like a
You,
dude.
you just eat a Ragnar Blackmane model. Just
If I consume enough, then IQ can advance in charge. If I eat all of the special Space Marine captains, I'll be able to produce one Gestalt captain with all of the buffs, right?
you'll be like Voltron or like the Infinity Gauntlet. You have all the special characters, and therefore
It's a battle foam tray that I wear on my arm and I plop models into. And meal, it depends on where I'm going. If I'm at a place that has like good local stuff, I'll get something local. I know there's a local event I go to now like a few years, and they have a Salad Works in the mall, and I can't get Salad Works really anywhere else, so I always get excited because I can get Salad Works, which is unexciting, but
it's fine. Like,
works
if
for me.
that's a treat, that's a treat, bud. Like, that's
It's a
fine.
salad
That's
in
your
the
40K
sense
meal.
that it's pasta, bacon, and like Caesar dressing, slathered in Caesar dressing. There's like 2 vegetables in it, but the restaurant is called Salad Works, so
Makes sense. Willow asks, who is the very bottom of the drip tier list? My answer is it's the most basic, like, Space Marine person is the lowest on the drip tier list. Like, your regular Tactical Marine or Primaris Marine is at the bottom of the drip tier list.
I don't know.
Personal
Some of the
opinion.
I would say like your Space Marine Scout, because some of the Tactical Marine poses are pretty amazing, especially like the old school ones.
Don't lie, Jeremy. The old school.
I mean it. Like the
are
old
you talking
metal
about the
ones are
guy
amazing.
going like this with the bolter here?
Not that one.
No, not that one.
Not
Oh,
that
I'm
one.
sorry, not that OG one.
No,
A
there are
different
different
OG
ones.
Tactical Marine. Okay.
No, yeah, probably anything Ultramarines.
how are we defining drip here? Like just overall coolness? Because like the Calgar model, it's pretty cool. Helmeted, not.
I mean, if we're going just by like sheer drip amount, I suppose like the Termagaunt has the least drip.
I'll say
from
anything
its mouth
Nurgle.
and
They
limbs.
have anti-drip. Actually, no, they're dripping.
No,
a
they're
lot.
very
They're
drippy.
dripping
They're very
constantly.
drippy. Actually, yeah. No,
They're very drippy.
Dark Vengeance Cultist. Ben has it right there. The 7th edition starter or 6th edition starter box that had the probably the most basic ass cultists I've ever seen. Which, especially when you put it next to the rest of that box, was a hell of a difference.
All right. Next one is from Eric Cultist-chan, which is I'm not doing that one.
No.
No. What is your favorite 40K / pairing? Fine. I cannot believe you are making me ask this question.
No, I ain't putting that in chat.
Oh, you sold me to fine. What are the 3 weirdest / most surprising units with at least 50% play? Can't believe you tricked me this way, Jeremy. I can't believe you've done this.
Aw.
I said no, there's no way I'm putting that in there. All right, Frank.
I guess for
Hit
this,
us with some unusual ones.
well, I mean everything in Deathwatch Black Spear. But I guess if we're going with factions that have numbers, I am scrolling through. I don't know if
I think at 50%, nothing would be particularly surprising.
Yeah, 50% is generally where you're seeing the stuff that's like good, and so you're not really gonna see anything that weird unless it's 1 or 2 people playing the list, in which case they are the numbers. So I will say stuff that I've seen that's like got up dramatically. Death Guard, Death Crowd Terminators. People have been wildly increasing the amount of those. I'm still scrolling through. Yeah, 50% and up is pretty much just stuff that's good anyway. I don't think there's anything really, or it's in stuff that's got 1 or 2 lists so far. So
Yeah, I wouldn't count that.
yeah, I am surprised that there's a sisters detachment where the Triumph is not at a 100% inclusion.
She's expensive, so I can actually see
190
that.
points is a lot, but she is very good.
She does
All right.
so much though.
Let us rocket through these last series of questions as we are at 2 hours. Thank you, Davlos, for the 5 SGD, which just is praise the sun. Lion is usable. Doubtful, but sure, we can say that usable is fine. Kyle asks a question. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Deathwatch criminally, well, he doesn't ask a question. Deathwatch criminally underrated. Double oath with reroll wounds, teleport, and army-wide sustain/lethal. Someone will believe me one day.
Yeah, the problem
Someone
is
will
it's all on
believe you
basic
one day.
bitch marine platforms, which don't
Yeah.
work very well.
The unique stuff in Deathwatch isn't terribly exciting when you look at the unique stuff in everything else.
Yeah, I can have sustained lethal on demand on units that when some of the best units in that book, like in the Marine book, already have that. And I have no access to, fallback and charge, advance and charge, lance lethal.
Or I can take 6 inner circle companions in Azrael and have sustained lethal on attacks at 6/2/2 with access to all of that stuff, and also I get free CP, and also he gives me an invul and a once per game 4 up against Wartles. Although pouring out for Thief of Secrets, best melee enhancement ever.
Valentin Puchkarov asks, I probably didn't say that correctly. Are any of the boys excited for Age of Sigmar 4? Will you give it a shot? Yes. I am waiting very impatiently for Soulblight Gravelords to get their cards this week so that I can actually look at that army and see if it's any good. I have a whole army of Soulblight Gravelords over there to paint. They're all primed black and assembled, and they're all ready to go, and I'm very excited for them. So yes, nice. I am.
Yep, I did some demos at the Open in Dallas when they were doing Spearhead demos and just like the starter box demos. It looks like a lot of fun. I will probably pick up a couple Spearheads just because they look like they're a ton of fun for a quick 1 hour or 2 hour game. And I've said it for the longest time, and I guess I got to put my money where the mouth is. The game looks fun, and it has the best models of any of them.
It's true. I am very tempted to pick up Ossiarch Bone Reapers or something like that as well, just because, I'm going to be honest, I love the Death factions in Age of Sigmar, and the Age of Sigmar stuff just has the best centerpiece models by far. There's no contest. Yeah. Just Nagash by himself is the best, one of the best Warhammer models. Yep. All right.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I played one AOS game of last edition. I'm not a huge AOS person, but I do have a bunch of Seraphon sitting, waiting to be painted one day because dinosaurs.
Another good army. Dinosaurs. You don't need dinosaurs. That. Yeah, that is literally the argument.
And dinosaurs riding larger dinosaurs with also magic frogs.
Yep. Sometimes even mummified frogs.
Come on. You had me at dinosaurs. Now you're just, you don't have to keep
space
selling
dinosaurs.
Exactly.
Sometimes spiritual space dinosaurs coming out of the sky. I won't lie. If it's not Arcearch Bone Reapers, it's gonna be dinosaurs. So I can paint dinosaurs. Valentin has another question, which is, will WTC be streamed this year? Yes, I will be participating in streaming WTC this year again. So there's going to be a studio stream, and then there are going to be a bunch of language-specific streams. And then I believe Joe from War Games Live is coming out to do the English stream.
There's going to be 2 English streams, actually.
Oh, I don't know who the second one is.
It'll be the Tabletop Live boys from up in my neck of the woods up here in Canada.
Oh, cool.
They are going to be streaming Team Canada, which has us not at all anxious about that, but
no pressure whatsoever.
No pressure whatsoever. Yeah, last year there was Spanish, German, Polish streams, as well as Joe's stream, as well as a French stream, if I remember correctly.
German, Spanish, French. There was a Polish stream?
Oh, I'm just thinking of Contact Lost. That's what I'm thinking of.
That was me. I was on the Polish stream, but we streamed in English because, most of the time.
You mean you don't speak Polish?
I do not, as a matter of fact, speak Polish. Maybe I should do Duolingo for the next month and just try to surprise Joker with a random Polish word.
Or give him a headache.
I mean, that I'm going to do that anyways, Jeremy.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's
All
the
right.
secret WTC tech is speaking native tongues poorly.
No, the secret WTC tech is being an American and being able to ask dumb American questions and having nobody get upset with you because nobody expects any better of you than to ask dumb American questions. As long as
on
you
that note, everyone should go check out Contact Lost and go watch all of the Round Zero interviews that they have been doing with the various team captains, because some of them are hilarious.
I have been on a couple of them and they are quite fun. I enjoy doing them. You can look up this year's Combat Between Countries and I think it's quite fun. There's also a lot of grudge throwing in those videos. So if you're on a WTC team, you should go see if somebody threw a grudge at you, basically. Donald Plummer asks, any silliness coming up with pivots so far? People making 3-inch charges from deep strike? Maybe that's why Drukhari are winning so much.
I haven't seen anything like that, really.
I don't think there's anything. Go ahead.
I was going to say probably too early to tell for Drukhari. Like if Drukhari stay at where they are or keep going up, maybe.
Yeah, but also like you look at and they were high, but there was only one Tantalus, which is the real like abusable short charge thing, and that's only if you put it on the 60 mil circle base that it doesn't actually fit on, because it should actually be on a night base. But
yeah, I mean it comes with a circle base, so that's
sure. But you put that on there and tell me that it actually stays up on that 60 mil base.
Look, man, it doesn't stay up on any bases.
It stays up on the night base.
Sure, maybe. I believe you. Not at all. I don't think any of the pivot stuff.
Legends with everything else.
Hey, you leave like the one Forge World model that Drukhari have left alone. It's the one model, the one Forge World model. Look, if they gave us Vect or something for Drukhari and replaced the Tantalus as a Forge World model, that would be fun.
It's just going to be a plastic Tantalus with an Archon on the front, and you can only take one of them, and it's Vect, and it's 300 points.
Acceptable. 12-inch Vectora from the model. Can you imagine?
From the
whole
model
battlefield.
From Vect, not the actual thing he's on.
Never mind.
Like Makari.
Yeah. All right. Willow Weeks asks, Renegade Raiders stealing rubrics, maybe?
Well, they don't steal rubrics because they can use rubrics, and you can still run Thousand Suns because they lose the Thousand Suns faction keyword. So every single team event has basically said, yeah, you can take both if you want. You can take Renegade Raiders with rubrics and T-Suns. But yeah, rubrics and Raiders is a very interesting drug.
And yes, engage on all fronts. The pivot rule we joke about the deep strike thing, but it is more for other movement shenaniganry, like being able to get additional range and stuff like that, probably, or better angles. I would imagine that if people abuse those things too much, or if you see a lot of abuses on circle bases, that some of those things will probably change in the near future when GW notices that we're all abusing round bases on large models that shouldn't be able to pivot for 3 inches of extra movement. Just saying. Lord Amnesia asks, what do people think of guard players taking a tank commander with Kurov's Aquila, which gives the Vect aura, and a Calidus to do the double Vect setup? Are those both tagged with the aura language so they don't stack, or do they stack?
They're both the same thing. Because they both had the old wording, because the Kurov's was the once per game you can... I think it is. I'm going to go double check right now.
I think that's...
I was just wondering.
Probably not the best idea.
Kurov's Aquila, once per battle, just it had the old ruling. So basically, you could have 2 separate 12-inch bubbles of +1 CP cost on strats. The problem is that then you're doing that with a Calidus that should really be off scoring somewhere, and a tank commander that is now within 12 inches of your opponent's army, which is not a good place for it to be for most of the time.
Yeah.
Demo tanks want to be sitting at 23.9 inches from the enemy, no closer. Or actually, no, 17.9 if you're playing with multi-meltas.
Yeah, the reason you're seeing Bjorn is because that dude halves damage and has a 5-up on top of being a dreadnought. So your opponent
wants to be in combat. He
wants to be in combat, and he can take hits. So
the tank commander can take hits. It doesn't want to be in combat.
It doesn't want to be taking hits though.
Yeah.
You don't want to be tagged in melee combat as a tank commander. I mean, like things like the Archon, things like Bjorn, those are things that are meant to be within 12 inches of somebody doing stuff. Because that Archon has 10 incubi with him, like who don't have guns and are meant to chop people into pieces.
Yep.
Your Archon wants to be within 12 inches of your opponent because that is where they do their best work.
Even
Yeah,
the
he wants to be within
lone
12
op,
inches of your opponent or in a boat, never in between.
Correct.
even the lone op lieutenant in Vanguard that you can give a Vec to, at least that guy can reactive move, so someone can get close, be like, I'm gonna kill you, and you just run away. And then if they charge you, you run away again.
Yeah.
And like a thing to remember is things like getting within 12 inches with a Calidus Assassin is not a good place for that Calidus Assassin. That Calidus Assassin has a 4-up invuln and a dream to keep it alive within 12 inches. That doesn't mean it's bad for the purpose. Like you can mess up your opponent's day by putting it in like the corner of a ruin that's within the center and like a region where you want a bunch of close combat stuff to happen. Like that's a thing you can do. Just be cognizant of the fact that you might lose your Calidus Assassin if you're trying stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you might,
for sure.
You might lose to Hellbrex impact mortals in the charge phase, and then
Or
it'll
bolt
just die.
pistols.
Or yeah,
that
Inferno
one
pistols.
Yeah, that one Inferno pistol, like somebody will dedicate 2 Inferno pistols to it and kill your Calidus Assassin. All right. That's it for questions. I haven't marked anything else, and I'm ignoring anything else that's in chat. I'm tired of all of you. Get out of here. No.
We love you all.
We actually do love you. Thank you for watching the 2-hour marathon of stream. I have one last thing to do before we do close out, which is everybody's favorite thing, where I read another spreadsheet. For $15 a month, I have seen more of you joining it in hopes that you'll get enough people to double or triple it so that I will do a D&D campaign. If you manage to triple it, I will do it, but I'm going to take all of that money in order to pay for my time that will be required to do that. Otherwise, the Church of the High Five is our $15 a month tier where you get a crisp high five at events or a bunch of other personalized benefits from various cast members if you're in that tier. Now I need to find the spreadsheet. If you join it, you also get this, where I read off whatever the heck you've decided to do in this spreadsheet as thank yous for joining that tier, because you are all awesome and amazing and chaotic goblins who I love, all of you. All right. Thank you to Christopher, Dan F., Ear Irvine. Thank you, Willow Weeks. Thank you, Dan F. Thank you, Luke, Dan F. McCarthy. Thank you, David Clark. Thank you, Ear. Thank you, James H. Thank you, Colton, Dan F. Miller. Thank you, Fungus. Thank you, John. 2 high fives at the same time, man. V8 gang. Thank you, Cam, F. Dan, Morton, Hog emoji, Hog emoji. Thank you, Archon, Yanari Pilled, Scourge Maxer, Rahal. Thank you, Josiah Gattle. Thank you, Feranki, Dan F. Faresh. Thank you, Isaac, Strong but not dominant, Tarada. Thank you, David. He's not a high five member. We should thank him anyways. And the rule says don't say, and the rules don't say I can't put his name in Gaylord. God. And then Thomas Dan F. Dramatic pause. I'm going to try to pronounce this surname, but you have been warned. Verkuijan.
It's Dutch. It's fake.
Look, if you send me a recording in my DMs of how to say your name, I will say your name correctly next time.
Or if you send it to me now, I will make sure that it's the cold open for the episode.
There you go. There are your choices. Thank you to Frank also for being here today with us. Do you want to do a shout out for the things that you do and the things that you care about and such in the 40K hobby?
Yeah, so you can check out Dirtsheets. There is a link to the Tableau dashboard. I think in the episode, there's also a Patreon that I admittedly have done a not great job of updating. But if you want to go see that, I'll put the link somewhere, and I'll send it to these guys, and they'll put it somewhere. But I might start writing stuff there. People are interested. I have a really long essay on powerlifting training in 40K, which could potentially be very interesting for all 3 of the people who have those crossover interests. But yeah, I'm gonna be at Nova end of August, so if you see me there, say hi, take a picture. I saw one of the someone else from the Discord at Atlantic City, and they got really excited and took a picture of me, and I never felt like more of an internet celebrity. So thank you for that. And it was a great game anyway. So yeah, come say hi. Look at the Dirtsheet stuff. Ask questions. Please take Lamartie's in all your Blood Angels lists. And that's all I have to say about that.
Bye-bye.